Chapter 74. After a long pause, there was no reply from the other side of the phone. I didn't hang up either. I guessed he was thinking about what to tell me. After a while, Duanmu finally said, "You can do whatever you want. I can't control your thoughts. If you don't want to come back, then do as you wish. I have something to do, so I'll hang up first." Before I could say anything, Duanmu had already hung up the phone. I laughed coldly, and finally couldn't control my tears from flowing down. For the next 3 or 4 days I stayed at home. I didn't even want to go to the garden. My mother looked at me, her eyes blurred every day. She didn't seem to care about me at all. In the past few days, other than Xinyao and Han Hao who occasionally called to chat with me, no one else contacted me. Time had smoothed out my heartache, and my heart gradually calmed down. Maybe Duanmu was getting farther and farther away from me. Or maybe he didn't love me that much anymore. He didn't treat me as his own life anymore. On the weekend morning the sun was especially bright. I decided not to laze around at home. I freshened up and went out for a walk. I asked Xinyao to meet me at the entrance of the shopping center. Just so happened that our favorite brand was on sale. It would be convenient for me to ask her about Duanmu recent situation. As soon as I arrived at the entrance of the shopping center, I saw Xinyao standing not far from me, waiting for me. I smiled and walked towards her. When she saw me, she ran up to me and threw herself into my arms. It was her usual greeting. After hugging me for a while, she held my arm and began our shopping trip. As we walked, we talked about what had happened in the past few days. I looked at Xinyao and asked, "How's your brother?" "Sister-in-law, I knew you missed my brother very much. Ever since you left, he has been going out early and coming home late every day. Sometimes when I call him he says that he is very busy and ignores me. I don't know if he is really busy or just pretending to be busy." I nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, sister-in-law, please forgive my brother. You care about him a lot, don't you? He's a straightforward boy. Sometimes he doesn't think before he speaks. After you left he regretted it a lot. So please don't lower yourself to his level, okay?" Xinyao shook my arm and mischievously acted cute. I smiled and stroked Xinyao's hair, softly saying to her, "Silly girl, let me think about it. Okay, you don't need to worry about my brother. You just need to think about mom and dad and think about me. You can treat my brother as heir." Xinyao smiled and nodded vigorously. We shopped for a long time and bought a lot of things. When it was almost time for dinner, Xinyao said she wanted to treat me to a big meal. She took me to a Western restaurant on the top floor of the shopping center. We found a window seat and sat down. Xinyao ordered a table full of sumptuous dishes. Then, she began to tell me about the things that had happened between her and Han Hao. Xinyao didn't hold back anything from me. She shared all of her innermost thoughts with me. Showed how much she trusted me. Of course I also trusted her. I knew she wasn't a girl with bad intentions. She wouldn't harm me. She just wanted everyone around her to live a good life. Just as we were chatting passionately, the restaurant's door was pushed open. A tinkling laughter sounded. A woman walked into the restaurant with a man's arm. The woman was smiling happily, but the man had a serious expression and didn't pay attention to her. I glanced at them and froze. The man wasn't just anyone, he was Duanmu. After seeing them, I turned my head away. My heart was very uncomfortable, and my heart was beating very fast. I used my arm to cover the side of my face, afraid they would see me. Xinyao saw my strange behavior. She looked at me and asked in a soft voice, "Sister-in-law, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" I shook my head and smiled at her. "Hurry up and eat. After we finish eating we can go shopping." Just as I lowered my head and hurried to finish eating and leave, the laughter got closer and closer. I heard the woman say, "Let's sit here." I didn't dare to raise my head. I was afraid to look at Duanmu's face. I was afraid that the two of us would be embarrassed. "Brother, why are you here?" Xinyao saw Duanmu. She stood up and greeted Duanmu. "Brother, who is this woman?" The woman's voice was full of dissatisfaction. She said to Xen Yao, "And who are you? Why are you calling our family's young Master K so affectionately?" "Brother, what do you mean by this? Who is this woman?" Xen Yao was angry. She pointed at the woman and asked Duanmu Quebec. As soon as I saw that the situation wasn't good, I stood up and pulled Xinyao to leave. But I didn't expect that when I turned around, I would bump into Duanmu Quebec. I lost my center of gravity and fell onto the chair. My eyes met Duanmu K's shocked expression. Seeing that I had fallen, Duanmu K grabbed my arm and pulled me up from the chair. He held me in his arms and then looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" When the woman saw that Duanmu K was hugging me, she became even more unhappy. She used all her strength to pull at Duanmu K's arm that was hugging me. She muttered, "Let her go. You can't hug her. How is she better than me? Let her go." Duanmu K didn't let go. He let the woman tear at his clothes. His eyes were fixed on me. I sighed and pushed Duanmu K's arm away. Then I picked up the bag on the chair and looked at Xen Yao. "Yao, let's go." Xen Yao glared at the woman. Then she looked at Duanmu K and said, "Sister-in-law, let's go." Then she pulled me and walked past Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K suddenly grabbed my arm from behind. "Don't go," he said. His tone was still tough. I didn't do anything, but why did it sound like I had made a big mistake? I tried my best to hold back my tears. I turned my head towards Duanmu K and said, "Let me go. Your date is waiting for you. I'm sorry for interrupting your date with her." I pushed away Duanmu K's hand that was holding mine and turned around to continue walking. At this moment, the woman suddenly rushed in front of me and Xen Yao. "Stop. Did I allow you to leave?" Xen Yao was very angry. She reached out to hit the woman, but I pulled her arm to stop her from being impulsive. When the woman saw that Xen Yao was about to hit her, she was flustered and exasperated. She reached out and slapped me across the face. Before I could react, Duanmu K had already rushed in front of me. He held me in his arms and slapped the woman across the face. Chapter 75. All of us were stunned. I struggled to push Duanmu K away. The woman covered her face and reached out to grab my hair. "Ah!" I screamed. She pushed me with all her strength. I lost my balance and fell to the ground. Xinyao ran to my side and supported me. She glared at the woman and said, "Are you crazy?" Then she looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, are you okay? Let me help you up." Duanmu K reached out to help me up, but I shook him off. By then, the area was filled with onlookers. 2 or 3 waiters came over to ask what had happened. The woman stood in front of me and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "You hit me because of this woman." Duanmu K looked at her coldly and only said one word. "Scram!" The woman became even angrier. She shouted at Duanmu K. "You told me to get lost? If you weren't so handsome, do you think I would be willing to talk to you? Don't you think too highly of yourself? Get lost, or I won't be polite to you." Duanmu K's face was very ugly. He looked at the woman as if he was about to explode. The woman covered her face and sneered at Duanmu Quebec. "Okay, don't be so happy. Let me tell you, if I hadn't saved you, would you still be standing here alive? You would have been hit by a car and died." "Shut up." Duanmu K suppressed his anger and looked at the woman. I stood up and patted the dirt off my body. I looked at Xinyao's worried face and said, "Let's go." "Sister-in-law, are you okay? Do you want to go to the hospital? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Xinyao asked worriedly. I shook my head and looked at her. "I'm fine. Let's go." Duanmu K suddenly rushed in front of me and looked at me. "Don't go. Can you listen to my explanation?" I smiled and looked at him. "No need. You guys can continue. I don't want to talk to you right now." After saying that, I pulled Xinyao out of the restaurant. After we came out, my tears couldn't stop flowing. I quickly walked to the nearest chair and sat down. I covered my face and cried. Xinyao took a pile of things and sat beside me. She didn't say anything. She didn't know how to open her mouth to comfort me. While I was crying my heart out, I suddenly felt a figure walk next to me. Before I could react, that person carried me horizontally. I hurriedly hugged that person's neck and lifted my head. It was Duanmu Quebec. He hugged me and didn't say anything. We walked forward in a hurry. Since we were in a shopping mall, his strange behavior attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Everyone looked at us with strange gazes. I looked up at Duanmu K and said softly, "Please put me down." Duanmu K didn't answer me. He carried me all the way through the elevator, floor by floor. Finally, we arrived at the underground parking lot of the mall. When we reached his car, he put me down. He held my hand, opened the door to the back seat, and threw me in. Before I could react, he had already locked the door. Then he walked around the car and sat in the driver's seat. Without saying a word, he started the car and took me away from the mall without telling me where we were going. I had the illusion that I was kidnapped. My wallet, backpack, and everything I bought was with Xinyao. I didn't have a penny on me, and I didn't even have my phone. I sat in the back seat and stared at Duanmu K's cold face reflected in the rearview mirror. I didn't know how to talk to him. We didn't talk to each other on the way back. It was as if the air had frozen. It was so quiet that it was scary. The car drove out of the city and went straight to the top of a mountain in the suburbs. The car finally stopped. I didn't move from my seat. Duanmu K got out of the driver's seat and walked to the back seat door. After he opened the door, he looked at me and said, "Come out." I didn't say anything and got out of the car. It was a quiet mountaintop. During the day, there weren't many tourists. There was a very unique pavilion at the top of the mountain. I glanced at Duanmu K and walked toward the pavilion. He locked the car and followed me into the pavilion. I leaned against the pillar and looked at the scenery below. Duanmu K stood next to me and looked at me blankly. He didn't speak for a long time. Since he didn't want to talk, there was no need for me to take the initiative to talk to him. I silently looked at the scenery, my heart sinking into endless thoughts. Duanmu K suddenly sat in front of me, disturbing my mood. I rolled my eyes at him and turned my head away. He looked at me and said, "Why don't you give me a chance to explain?" I didn't look at him and said, "What else is there to say? The first time was like this. The second time was like this. What about the third time? The third time is still like this." Duanmu K sighed. "I don't know her. When I was crossing the road, I was absent-minded and didn't look at the car. I was almost hit by a car. She was the one who pulled me. To thank her, I promised to treat her to a meal." "That's amazing. You just met and you're already hugging and whispering sweet nothings to each other?" I glanced at Duanmu K and then turned my head away. "I don't know her. I didn't even know she was hugging me. If you're angry because of this, I don't think it's necessary." "Necessary? I'm your wife. If I see you flirting with another woman, how would I feel? Have you ever thought about it from my point of view? Okay, let's just say it was Yuxin who took the initiative to seduce you. Let's just say it was Yuxin who forced you to do something with her. Then what about this woman today? If you didn't give her a chance to take advantage of the situation, would she have stuck so close to you? Do you really not understand, or are you just pretending not to?" I turned my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K furrowed his brows. "How is this related to Yuxin? She did have feelings for me in the past, but I didn't accept her. How can you be so sensitive and suspicious? You haven't seen the truth. You shouldn't say things like that so easily." I stood up. I looked at Duanmu K and said, "The truth? What truth do you want? Isn't it enough that I saw you and Yuxin naked? I saw you walking with another woman. Can't I think more about it? Why do you have to ask so much of me? Is it that hard for me to make you love me wholeheartedly?" Duanmu K also stood up and looked at me. "You guessed all of this. I've already told you. Yuxin and I didn't do anything. I only met that woman for the first time. All of this is your own imagination. I didn't do anything wrong to you. And I didn't say I don't want you. Dwanmu K's voice got louder and louder. I looked into Dwanmu K's eyes, and tears flowed down uncontrollably. Chapter 76. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and tried my best not to cry. I looked at Dwanmu K and said, "Since you feel so wronged when you're with me, then don't force yourself. I'll let go. Let's get a divorce." Dwanmu K was stunned when he heard my words. He held me down and squeezed my shoulders. "What did you say? Are you sure? Have you made your decision?" I didn't dare to look at him. I turned my face away, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. Dwanmu K saw that I didn't answer him, and he got even angrier. He turned my face away and said, "Look at me. Cold glaze, are you sure you want to divorce me, Dwanmu K? Are you sure you want to leave me?" I pushed Dwanmu K away and looked at him. "What do you want me to do? There's already a conflict between us. You'll never give in to me, and I've always misunderstood you. Tell me, how can we resolve this? Isn't leaving the best way? That way you can be with the woman you like, and you won't have to think about me." I cried very sadly. I stood in front of him, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. I covered my face with my hands and cried loudly. "You're wrong. From the beginning, I've only loved you. I won't even look at any other woman who appears by my side. You're the only one in my heart. Do you know that? Shaoli, I really love you." Dwanmu K's voice suddenly softened. He hugged me tightly in his arms. I didn't struggle. I leaned on his chest and cried sadly. The two of us stood in the middle of the pavilion, hugging each other. Neither of us spoke. I leaned into Dwanmu K's embrace and cried for God knows how long. Gradually I got tired from crying and fell asleep unknowingly. When I woke up again, I realized that I was lying on the long bench in the pavilion. My head was in Dwanmu K's arms and he was hugging me tightly. I didn't know why I was hugging him tightly too. I lifted my head to look at his handsome face, and he was also looking down at me. I accidentally met his gaze and my face suddenly became hot. I didn't dare to lift my head to look at him again, so I lowered my head and didn't know what to do. Dwanmu K stroked my hair and said softly, "You're awake? Why don't you sleep a little longer?" I struggled to get up from his arms. I didn't dare to look at him. I lowered my head and sat on the bench, tidying my clothes. Dwanmu K looked at me and asked, "What's wrong? Are you still angry?" I sighed and looked at him. "There's nothing to be angry about. I don't want to be angry. You're the one who hurt me again and again. It doesn't matter as long as you're not angry." Dwanmu K suddenly pulled me into his arms and kissed me gently on my forehead. He looked at me and said, "Then I'll pretend I didn't hear you talk about divorce. Just this once. You're not allowed to mention divorce again." I looked at him and thought for a while. "I'll think about it." Dwanmu K became emotional again. He shook my shoulder and said, "What's there to think about? I know I made a mistake. Don't be angry, okay?" Seeing Dwanmu K's sincere attitude, I decided to stop. I stroked his face and said, "Let's stop this time. It won't be so easy next time. I hope there won't be a next time." Dwanmu K hugged me in his arms and said softly, "I won't. It's too hard to make you happy. Although I know I made a mistake in the first place and let others take advantage of me and make you suffer, I've already realized my mistake. So, wifey, can you forgive me?" I leaned into Dwanmu K's arms. I hadn't heard his gentle voice in a long time. The current him was better. At least he didn't make me angry. "All right. When we get back, let's go to your house to get our luggage and go home." I shook my head and looked at Dwanmu Quebec. "I don't want to go back yet." Dwanmu K's expression became very serious. He looked at me and said, "What's wrong now? Didn't you forgive me? Then let's go home. You made everyone's imagination run wild when you went back to your parents' house. I just don't know how to face my parents. I don't want to see UXN either. I don't know why, but I feel disgusted when I see her. I told him my worries. I thought Duanmu K would comfort me, but the opposite happened. Duanmu K let go of my hand and stood up. He looked at me angrily and said, "You Exa again. How long do you want her to exist between us? When we were having a good talk, you had to bring her out. You even said I didn't want to live a good life. You were the one who said everything first." Seeing Duanmu K's expression change so quickly, I stood up and looked at him. "Forget it, Duanmu Quebec. We still can't talk about it today. I'm not afraid to tell you that the biggest problem between us is in the heart. If you can't solve it, then it will completely affect our relationship. Do as you see fit. When you've thought it through, then we'll talk about the future." Duanmu K looked at me impatiently and said, "I can solve it, but you have to tell me how to solve it." "Fine, you don't have to tell me. But you have to tell me what I can do to make you happy." I rolled my eyes at Duanmu K and said, "You can't ask me that. You know what kind of answer I want. You can't ask me to kick her out." Duanmu K shook his head helplessly. I nodded and looked at him. "What's wrong with that? She's already jeopardized our relationship. Can't I ask her to leave if I want to? I used to think you were a reasonable woman. I didn't expect you to be no different from other women." Duanmu K threw down these words and sat down on a bench in the pavilion. I looked at him and sneered. "That's right. I'm no different from other women. I'm just like other women. I'm too possessive of my man. I don't want to share you with others. Is that wrong?" "Yes, it's not wrong. You're always right." Duanmu K scratched his head and leaned against a pillar next to the bench. He looked like he had nothing to live for. I smiled and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Forget it. Think about it yourself. Contact me when you've made up your mind. I'm leaving." Then I left the pavilion. Duanmu K sat there and shouted at me, "Wait for me. I'll take you back." "I didn't say I wouldn't take you back. How are you going to get down from the top of this mountain by yourself?" I didn't turn around. I waved in his direction and said loudly, "No need. I can walk by myself. You can go on, young Master Duanmu." Chapter 77. I walked past Duanmu K and walked back along the road we had come from. Duanmu K shouted at me from behind, but I ignored him and kept walking. After walking for a while, a car suddenly appeared next to me. The car's speed was about the same as my walking speed. I turned my head and saw that it was Duanmu Quebec. He rolled down the front passenger window and looked in my direction from time to time. As he drove, he said to me, "Shaoli, let's not play around, okay? Get in the car first and we'll talk in the car." I didn't answer. I glanced at him, then turned my head and walked forward. Duanmu K followed me, trying to maintain the same speed as me. There were several times when the cars behind us honked at him to speed up, but Duanmu K ignored them. As he drove, he kept talking to me about all kinds of things. I didn't pay attention to him, but he was talking very enthusiastically. After another intersection, we would enter the city. Duanmu K didn't give up and followed me closely. After entering the city, if Duanmu K continued to drive like this, it would be too dangerous. For his safety, I decided to get in his car. I stopped on the side of the road. Duanmu K also stopped his car. I opened the door and got in. Duanmu K looked at me excitedly and said, "You're finally willing to get in my car. Have you forgiven me? That's great." I rolled my eyes at Duanmu K and said, "I haven't forgiven you. I'm tired. Take me home." Okay. You haven't forgiven me. I'll do as you wish." Duanmu K started the car and muttered, but his face was full of smiles. On the way home, Duanmu K told me a lot of things. They were all messy things that happened around him when I wasn't by his side. However, I didn't know who spread the rumors, but people who knew about me and Duanmu K all said that we were divorced. As a result, a lot of women started to appear in front of Duanmu K to attract his attention. They didn't hesitate to play some tricks just to get his attention. This phenomenon surprised me. Although Duanmu K was a public figure in a city and was also a handsome guy, no matter how crazy the women were, They wouldn't try to seduce him. While I was thinking, we arrived at my house. I was about to get out of the car when Dwan grabbed me and held me tightly in his arms. He gently stroked my hair and said, "Shaoli, let's move our things home. Dad, Mom, and Xinyao all miss you very much, okay? Just come back with me." I pushed Dwan away and shook my head hard. I smiled and said to him, "I haven't thought it through yet. Can you give me a little more time? I'll definitely go back with you once I've thought it through." Dwan sighed and said, "But I don't want to let you go like this. I don't feel safe at all. It's fine if you're by my side now, but as long as you're not by my side, I'm worried that you'll leave me. This feeling is too scary. I've never felt it before." I stroked his hair and said, "Okay, don't think about it anymore. I said that I'll go back once I've thought it through. It won't take too long. You have to give me some time. Please believe me." Dwan thought for a while and said, "Then I'll move here. It's not too far away anyway. It'll be very convenient to drive back and forth. I'll also explain to Father Lang why you suddenly came back. Forget it. I'll be lucky if you don't get in my way." After listening to Dwan brainless answer, I almost spat out a mouthful of blood. I knocked his head and said, "You only know how to come up with stupid ideas. If you have time, go back and think about the problem between us." Dwan shook his head and said, Okay. I'll think about it, okay? But let's make it clear. You can't leave me. Look at how you're behaving. I'll have to find out who spread the rumor that we're divorced. That's too much. I'll go first. Drive slowly. Okay, then I'll look into it too. I waved at Dwan and drove away. I turned and walked through the front door. As soon as I entered the living room, my parents surrounded me and glared at me. I was stunned. I looked at them and said, "Dad, Mom, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like that? Lier, tell your mother the truth. Did you divorce Dwan?" My mother walked up to me and stroked my hair. Before I could answer, my father glared at me and said, "You better tell me that's not true. Right now, our cooperation with the Black Viper Group is very good. If because of your problem there are problems with the business between the two companies, then it's up to you to solve it." I calmly sighed and said, "Dad, this isn't true. I just met Dwan Quebec. If I'm really divorced, why would I want to see him? This is a rumor made up by others." I paused and looked at my father. I continued, "Dad, don't you think you're being too cruel by linking my marriage with the interests of the entire group?" "That's right. Dad, why don't you feel sorry for our Lier? This matter can't be casually heard by others." My mother protected me. She knew that my father didn't feel sorry for me. This marriage contract was originally signed for the interests of both groups. Now you're talking about feelings with me. Don't you think it's nonsense? My father asked me very seriously. I sighed and said to my father, "That's right. At the beginning, I was thinking that I only agreed to marry Dwan for the interests of our Red Minghui. But after a long time, I found that I already had feelings for him. I can't control these feelings. I also hope that it's fake, but I really like him now." "Then if you like him so much, why did you come back for no reason? You didn't say anything even when I asked you." "Dad, it's really nothing. What do you want me to say?" Although I knew that I couldn't lie in front of my father, I really couldn't tell him the details of my return. "Nothing. I heard from your mother-in-law that before you came back, you and Dwan had a big fight. The fight was very fierce, so you ran away from home. Is that true?" My father reached out and threw the newspaper to the ground. He angrily yelled at me. I stood in front of my parents, not daring to move. I lowered my head and clasped my hands behind my back. I was like a child who did something wrong, waiting for my parents to criticize me. Chapter 78. Seeing my aggrieved appearance, my father sighed. His tone was a lot calmer as he softly said to me, "Child, although we don't take the initiative to cause trouble, we absolutely can't tolerate being bullied. Tell me, why did you and Dwanmu-K quarrel so fiercely? I thought for a moment and decided not to tell my parents the truth. I was afraid they wouldn't be able to accept it. I looked up at my father and said, Dad, you don't have to worry about this. It's inevitable that husband and wife quarrel. It's not a big deal, it's just a small matter. The two of them didn't agree, so they quarreled for a while. They didn't say much. I just happened to miss you guys, so I came back. I didn't know if this perfunctory answer could hide from my father's sharp eyes. Small matter. I don't think it's that simple. My father's serious eyes made me feel very scared. My mother saw my frightened expression and pulled my father back. She looked at him and said, Aya, you don't have to worry about it. Children are all grown up. It's inevitable that they will stumble. Why do you care so much? When you were young, you always quarreled with me. My parents didn't care either. So you don't need to worry about it. I believe that Lee-er can handle it well. All right, let's go inside. Mother gave me a meaningful glance. Then, without any explanation, she pulled father away. I stood there and sighed. My mother was still the one who knew me best. I curled up on the sofa. My mind was in a mess, but the person I thought about the most was Dwanmu Quebec. I thought about his good points, thought about his bad points, and thought about every word he had said to me. While I was in a daze, my phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment before answering the phone. Hello. A man's hoarse voice came from the other side of the phone. Hello, is this Miss Coldglaze? May I know who is this? I'm calling from a central hospital. Our hospital just sent in an emergency patient. He was injured in a car accident. We looked through his information and found your contact information. So we called you. Car accident. There is no one around me who was injured in a car accident. You may have dialed the wrong number. She was already very annoyed, and this kind of inexplicable phone call made her even more annoyed. Aren't you Mr. Dwanmu-K's family member? Dwanmu-K. What did you say? Dwanmu-K had a car accident. I suddenly became excited and shouted into the phone. Yes, please hurry to the hospital to go through the relevant procedures. After saying that, the person on the other end of the phone hung up. After hanging up, I kept feeling that something wasn't right. Dwanmu-K had just sent me home, and he was fine just now. How could he have gotten into an accident so quickly? Could it be that he had met a swindler? It's true that there are a lot of telecom scams these days, but it's not as real as it sounds. I guessed that it might be a telecom scam, so I decided to ignore it and take a good rest first. Then I'll get up and think about the future. Just as I was about to walk up the stairs, my phone rang again. I picked it up and saw that it was Xiao Fengya. I quickly picked up the phone and answered. Mom, it's Xiaoli. What's wrong? After the phone was connected, the other side didn't speak at first, but I heard a lot of noise. Hello. Mom. Mom, are you there? Why aren't you talking? After a while, Xiao Fengya's trembling voice finally came from the other side of the phone. Xiaoli. Just now the hospital called me and said that K-er had a car accident. What should I do? Xiao Fengya was already sobbing. Don't cry. Is there no one else around you? Where are you now? I heard Xiao Fengya's voice, and I suddenly felt anxious. I'm on my way to the hospital. Okay, Mom, wait for me. I'll be right there. I hung up the phone, grabbed my bag and ran to the door. Since it was time for the taxi shift, there weren't any taxis at the door. I stood at the door, feeling anxious. Our driver had gone out to run some errands, and he wouldn't be able to come back in time. Just as I was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, a car suddenly stopped in front of me. I rolled down the window and saw that it was none other than Han Hao. Han Hao looked at my anxious appearance and said, "Let's go. Get in the car. I'll take you there." I didn't have time to think too much and directly jumped into Han Hao's car. I sat next to Han Hao and quietly looked ahead. He glanced at me and said, "Are you going to the hospital?" I turned my head and looked at him in surprise. "You know about it too?" Han Hao nodded, looked ahead and said, "Yes, I know." Auntie called Uncle. At that time I just happened to be next to her. Uncle had already gone over first. "Thought of you. You came out of the Duanmu residence without a car, so I took a detour to pick you up and go with you. Thank you so much." "Did Uncle and Auntie tell you anything about Duanmu K's situation?" "Not really. I just heard that Duanmu K was in a car accident. I think he's in the hospital. I saw that there was still time, so I came over." Han Hao looked at me and smiled. "Thank you. I don't know how he is now." I rested my chin on my hand and looked at the scenery outside the window. Han Hao turned his head and looked at me. "You don't have to worry too much. Duanmu K's body is very good. His life won't be taken away so easily. Don't worry." Han Hao patted my shoulder. "Hope so." I suddenly thought of something and looked at Han Hao. "What about Xinyao? How did Xinyao get there?" "I just contacted her. She's already gone with Auntie Xiao. We should be there soon. Don't worry." I nodded firmly. Later, Han Hao and I didn't talk about anything else on the way. My heart had already flown to the hospital. I mainly wanted to know what was going on with Duanmu, Quebec. Finally, we arrived at the hospital. While we were at a loss, we met Xinyao. Xinyao had already arrived at the hospital. When she saw me, Xinyao threw herself at me. She hugged me and cried, "Silly girl, don't cry, your brother will get better." I gently stroked Xinyao's back, comforting her not to think too much. Xinyao leaned into my arms and cried even harder. She whispered, "Sister-in-law, I'm so scared. First you left me and went back to your family. Then my brother became like this. I'm really scared. I'm scared that these things will happen to me. I'm scared that I'll lose you." Chapter 79. I gently patted Xinyao back and comforted her. When I looked up, I saw Xiao Fengya standing at the door of the emergency room, anxiously pacing back and forth. I handed Xinyao to Han Hao and asked him to take care of her. Then I walked over to Xiao Fengya. I gently patted Xiao Fengya's shoulder. She turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. I held her hand and said, "Mom, don't worry. It's gonna be okay." Xiao Fengya cried even harder. She grabbed my hand and said, "How can I not worry? How could a person get into a car accident? He's still so young. If something really happens to him, how can his father and I live?" I patted Xiao Fengya's back and asked her to control her emotions. She shouldn't cry so hard. I was afraid that she wouldn't be able to take the blow and cause more problems. At this moment, Duanmu Lixiong arrived at the door of the emergency room. When he saw us, he walked up to Xiao Fengya and grabbed her shoulders tightly. "What's going on?" he asked. "What's going on?" Xiao Fengya continued to cry. "I don't know. I was preparing dinner at home when I received a call. They said that K. had been in a car accident and was sent here. They asked me to come here immediately." "Is K. in there?" Duanmu Tachio was a little agitated. He grabbed Xiao Fengya's shoulder with all his strength. Xiao Fengya looked at him and nodded. "It's K. She said softly. "He was just brought in when I got here. I wanted to follow him into the emergency room, but the nurse stopped me." Duanmu Tachio couldn't take the blow. He lost his balance and sat down on a chair by the emergency room door. I hurried over to support him. "Dad, are you okay? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Duanmu Tachio shook his head. He looked up at the ceiling and sighed. "I hope K. can make it." Looking at Duanmu Tachio, I couldn't see his usual serious and cold face. Instead, I felt sympathy for him. I went to the corridor and fetched 2 cups of hot water. I handed them to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya so that they could calm down for a while. After more than half an hour, the light at the entrance of the emergency room finally went out. Doctor walked out. He glanced at all of us and then said, "May I ask who is Duanmu K's family member?" Everyone gathered around. Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya stood up. Duanmu Tachio looked at the doctor and said, I'm Duanmu-K's father. You can talk to us. We're all his family. The doctor took off his mask and looked at Duanmu Tachio. It's like this, Mr. Duanmu. Duanmu-K's surgery was a success. That's great. Xinyao cheered. All of us let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, this was the result we wanted. The doctor signaled for us to be quiet. He looked at Duanmu Tachio and said, "However, there's one thing I need to tell you. Although the surgery was a success, he's still in critical condition. We'll see if he can get out of critical condition within 48 hours. Therefore, the patient will have to stay in the hospital for a while. Even if he wakes up, we'll have to observe him for a few days before we can make a decision." "Yes, doctor. Understand." Duanmu Tachio turned to look at Xinyao and Han Hao. "Xinyao, you and Han Hao go and take care of your brother's hospitalization procedures." I walked in front of the doctor and asked in a soft voice, "Hello, doctor. I'm Duanmu-K's wife. I'd like to ask, what should we do while he's out of critical condition? What should we pay attention to?" The doctor looked at me and said, "Give the patient enough time to rest. Don't make a fuss around him. Let him go. He's so young. He'll make it." The doctor patted my shoulder and went back into the emergency room. After a while, the door to the emergency room finally opened. A few nurses carried Duanmu-K's mobile bed to a specific room. When I came out, I saw Duanmu-K lying on the bed. His eyes were closed and his face was pale. There wasn't even a trace of red in it. His face, neck, and exposed shoulders were covered in different degrees of abrasions. Seeing him lying on the bed, my heart ached. Tears streamed down my face, but I forced myself not to cry. At a time like this, he needed my encouragement and support, not my weak self. The nurses pushed him into the intensive care unit. We couldn't enter the room, so we could only look at him through the glass window from afar. Seeing that Duanmu-K was fine, I decided to send Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya home. After all, the huge Kurosawa couldn't be without a leader, and the Duanmu family couldn't be without Xiao Fengya. Xiao Fengya and Duanmu Tachio didn't want to leave. I persuaded them for a long time and promised that I would contact them as soon as Duanmu-K woke up. Only then did they reluctantly leave the hospital. After Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya left, I drove away Han Hao and Xinyao. The Duanmu-K's operation had been successful, so there was no need for more people to waste their time here. Took them a lot of effort to drive them away. After they left, I let out a long sigh and sat on the bench outside the intensive care unit. From my position, I could see the Duanmu-K lying inside through the glass window. Looking at Duanmu-K, who was lying there motionless, I didn't feel good in my heart. I started to regret throwing a tantrum with him. I started to regret quarreling with him. I also suddenly felt that if it wasn't for my willfulness, he might not have had so many things happen to him. Maybe it was really my fault. No matter what, as long as he can wake up and safely get through the dangerous period, I can treat it as if nothing happened and forgive him. I didn't know how much time had passed, but my head was leaning against the wall. My eyelids gradually became heavy, and I couldn't keep them open. I closed my eyes and leaned against the bench, feeling very uncomfortable. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly felt someone cover me with something. I opened my eyes and saw Yuexin covering me with a jacket. She was stunned when she saw me, but she still covered me with the jacket. She stood in front of me and touched the glass window with one hand. She looked at the Duanmu-K lying inside, surrounded by all kinds of wires. Her expression was full of pity. I stared blankly at the glass window for a long time. After letting out a long breath, she turned to look at me. Her eyes were full of helplessness. Chapter 80. Yuexin walked to my side and sat down. She handed me a can of coffee. I looked at her and took the can. I opened it and took a few sips. "If you're too tired, you should sleep for a while. At least I'm here, I can still help you look after him." Yuexin's eyes were fixed on Duanmu-K as she spoke to me softly. Thought to myself, is she helping me out of the goodness of her heart? Shouldn't she hate me the most? Why is she suddenly being so kind to me? I thought for a moment and looked at her. No need. I'm not very sleepy. Yuexin smiled coldly and looked at me. What? Are you afraid I'll hurt you while you're sleeping? No, I'm afraid you'll hurt Duanmu Quebec. I looked at her and said cautiously. Then you're thinking too much. I can hurt anyone but not him. Yuexin turned her head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. That better be the case. Actually, I envy you. Hearing Yuexin's words, I opened my eyes and looked at her. She looked at me and said, you will never be erased from Duanmu K's heart. You are the only person in his heart. Even that day when you two quarreled. He stormed home angrily and hid in his bedroom to get drunk. He asked the auntie to bring him some alcohol. I saw that this was a good opportunity to be alone with him, so I took the initiative to ask the auntie to bring him some alcohol. In the end, when I opened the door, he was dead drunk and his mouth was full of your name. Actually, I knew he had drunk too much, so I took off his clothes while he was drunk. I also took off my own clothes. I thought he would mistake me for you and would have sex with me. But I guessed wrong, he didn't even hug me and fell asleep on the bed by himself. I looked at Yuexin, so what Duanmu K said was the truth. Nothing really happened between the two of them. Yuexin paused and said, but you definitely won't guess why Duanmu K didn't have sex with me. It's not because he was drunk. What is it? I asked. Yuexin sneered and looked at me. It's because he said the smell on my body wasn't familiar to him. Therefore, I'm not his woman and he won't touch me. He said the smell that only Shaoli has is the smell that he loves the most. Hearing those words, my heart broke. His heart is full of you, and he can't tolerate even the slightest bit of me. But I'm still willing to fight with you. Do you know why? It's because I want you to leave him. I want his heart to only have me. I want his eyes to only see me. My heart couldn't calm down for a long time. It seemed I had misunderstood Duanmu Quebec. But why did Yuexin tell me the truth tonight? I decided to ask her. Yuexin, you didn't have to tell me these things. But why did you tell me? There's no reason. Some things, the more serious you are about it, the more painful it will be. I guess that's what you're feeling right now. What do you mean by that? Yuexin's way of thinking was always a little strange. It seems your IQ isn't that high. Don't tell me you're so naive to think that Duanmu K's car accident has nothing to do with you. Yuexin stood up and walked in front of me. She crossed her arms and looked at me. What does it have to do with me? My heart was a little scared, and my voice trembled a little. Yuexin looked at me and laughed. You see, you're already feeling guilty. I guess you've already guessed what it is. Duanmu K's car accident does have something to do with you. If it wasn't because you didn't trust him, and if it wasn't because you were throwing a tantrum, would he have gone to find you? His head would be full of thoughts about you. As a result, he was distracted and caused the car accident. Don't you blame yourself for this. I suddenly felt that Yuexin's words were very reasonable. Maybe it was because of my willfulness that it indirectly caused Duanmu K's car accident. I lowered my head and covered my eyes. Tears flowed through the gaps between my fingers. Yuexin gently patted my shoulder and said, the only person I care about in my heart is Duanmu Quebec. Everyone else is the same in my heart. So please forgive me for telling you the truth. This is a small punishment for you. Yuexin stood up, turned around and left the ward. At this time, Xinyao came in from outside. She and Yuexin came face to face. The two of them didn't say anything. Xinyao looked at Yuexin's back as she left. She walked to my side and said, Sister-in-law, why did she come? Sister-in-law, what happened? Why are you crying? Xinyao hugged me. I leaned on her shoulder and sobbed. I grabbed her arm and said, Xinyao, it's me. Caused your brother to be hit by a car. I leaned on her shoulder and cried myself hoarse. What the hell is going on? Sister-in-law, don't cry. Tell me everything. Shi Niao stroked my head and softly comforted me. I told her everything that Yuexin had just told me. After listening, Shi Niao was very angry. She stood up and pulled my hand. Sister-in-law, don't listen to her nonsense. She's just trying to scare you. How could you harm my brother? She must have thought of an excuse to break you and my brother up. Don't believe her, okay? That's her plan. I shook my head and said, that's impossible. What she said makes a lot of sense. It's definitely like this. Caused Duanmu K to be like this. Shi Niao, you don't have to say anything for me. You don't have to help me hide it. It's my fault. But I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't think that something like this would happen. Shi Niao hugged me tightly and said, Sister-in-law, you have to believe me. Don't take things too hard. Don't do anything stupid. You have to believe me. Wait for me. I'll call Han Hao right now and tell him to come over. Don't be impulsive. While hugging me, Shi Niao dialed Han Hao's number. Han Hao, hurry up and come over. Yuexin just came over and said something to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law immediately collapsed. Now she's saying that she caused my brother's accident. Hurry up and come take a look. With that, Shi Niao hung up the phone. She stroked my hair and said, Sister-in-law, don't worry. Han Hao will be here soon. My mind was filled with the thought that I had harmed Duanmu, Quebec. My heart collapsed. Looking at Duanmu K lying in the ICU, my heart was filled with guilt. My tears couldn't stop flowing. At that moment, several uniformed police officers walked over to us. They stopped in front of me and Shi Niao and took out their police badges. Looking at me, they asked, Excuse me, are you Cold Glaze? What can I do for you? I looked at them and suddenly felt uneasy. Chapter 81. One of the police officers walked up to me and looked at me. We suspect that you're involved in a case of intentional assault. Please come with us for an investigation. Then, two police officers walked up to me and prepared to take me away. Exen Yao hugged me tightly and shouted at them. Impossible! Don't arrest people. My sister-in-law isn't that kind of person. Please don't interfere with our work. One of the police officers shouted at Exen Yao. Exen Yao didn't let go of me. She looked at the police officers and said, I'm the eldest daughter of the Duanmu family. You think you can do anything to me? It seemed that Shi Niao had used her identity to intimidate them. It was effective. The policemen looked at each other, then stood there and looked at us. At this time, one of them, who I guessed was the person in charge, flipped through a notebook he'd brought with him. He looked at me and said, Cold Glaze, right? What's your relationship with Duanmu K? I was stunned. I looked at him and said, I'm his wife. Then it's you. Someone reported that you're involved in Duanmu K's car accident. There's evidence that before his car accident, the two of you had a fierce quarrel. That's why you set him up and murdered him, the police officer said calmly. I was dumbfounded. I fell into a chair and stared blankly in front of me. Xen Yao was scared. She hugged me and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. She looked at the police officer and said, Who said that? My sister-in-law and my brother were very loving. They only had a little conflict. What evidence do you have to say that my sister-in-law did it? The police officer sneered and looked at Exen Yao. You just said that there was a little conflict. That can be considered a motive. So please cooperate with us, Miss Duanmu. We're just taking Miss Leng back for an investigation. If there's enough evidence to prove that Miss Leng has nothing to do with this, we'll immediately release her. Hearing him say this, Shi Niao was still very worried. She didn't let go. At this time, Han Hao walked to her side, pulled Shi Niao's arm and said, Shi Niao, listen to me, the police won't make things difficult for Shaoli, you don't have to worry, the main task now is to tell uncle and auntie about this matter, then everyone will discuss what to do, listen to me, trust the police. Exen Yao turned to look at Han Hao and let go of me. I stood up and looked at Exen Yao. Girl, I'll leave Xiao Kei to you. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll listen to Han Hao. I turned to look at Han Hao. Han Hao, you have to take good care of Xen Yao. If Xiao Ke wakes up, please tell me as soon as possible. I'll also have to trouble you to help me tell my parents. Try to be tactful. I'm afraid they won't be able to take this blow. After making the arrangements, I walked in front of the police officer. I can go with you now, I said, extending my hands in front of him. He looked at me and smiled. Miss Lung, there's no need. You can just come with us. I nodded and followed him out of the hospital. I passed by the glass window outside Duanmu K's room. I looked at him lying there and prayed in my heart that he would wake up soon. It wasn't to prove my innocence, but to see him when he woke up. After leaving the hospital, I got into the police car. I didn't say anything along the way. My heart had calmed down. I gradually understood the true meaning behind what Yu Xen had said to me. Whether or not Duanmu K's car accident was caused by someone or not, Yu Xen would use it as a pretext to make a fuss. She would frame me and say that I was the one who designed the accident. She said that to me just to make me panic, but after thinking it through, I was also taken to the police station, which was probably the result she wanted. When we arrived at the entrance of the police station, I got out of the car and followed them into the interrogation room. I naturally sat on a stool. The leading police officer and the other police officer sat across from me. He flipped through the information he had brought in and looked at me for a long time. I sat there calmly and looked back at him. After a while he looked at me and said, "The daughter of Red Minghui's chairman Leng, the daughter-in-law of Kurosawa's chairman Duanmu, and the wife of Black Lotus Group's general manager Duanmu. Your identity is quite valuable." I sneered and looked at him. "This shouldn't have much to do with the case you're investigating." "It doesn't have much to do with it, but we still need to have basic information." "It's okay, I understand. If there's anything you need to know, you can ask me directly. After all, the information you have might not be the most accurate." I leaned back in the chair and looked at him. It seems that Miss Lung was prepared. Could it be that Duanmu K's car accident was really related to you? He raised his eyebrows. I knew he was trying to get information from me. I looked at him and said, "If I wasn't calm enough and didn't make the first move, I would have easily fallen into your usual trap." The police officer suddenly laughed. He stood up and looked at me. "That's all for now. You take a rest first. We'll come back later." The police officer next to him was stunned. He stood up and looked at him. "Deputy Commissioner, didn't you say you wanted to finish the interrogation today?" "Shut up. I have the final say in this matter. Don't interrogate me first." The police officer looked very angry and scolded the police officer next to him. The police officer who was scolded suddenly stopped talking. He simply organized the documents on the table and followed him out. Seeing their strange behavior, my brows furrowed. Could it be that they were in cahoots with the people who wanted to frame me? It seemed that they were going to finish interrogating me today. But why did they suddenly stop? I looked at my watch. It was already late at night. It was probably too late. Forget it, I didn't want to think about it. When the sun rises, my parents will know about this matter and come to see me. After a while, another policeman came into the room. He helped me up and took me to the detention room. Although I didn't want to do it, I didn't have time to think about it. I just had to wait until the sun rose. The police station wasn't big. There were only 2 detention rooms. The middle was surrounded by iron bars. The police officer took me to one of the detention rooms. As soon as I sat down on the chair, I saw a person lying on the bench next to the detention room. His face was covered by a hat. He was very thin, but from his clothes he should be a man. The police officer who brought me in saw me enter and locked the iron bars of the detention room. He stood at the door and looked at me. "Miss Lang, I'm sorry. I'll have to trouble you tonight. I'll bring you a quilt later. Just now Red Minghui Bai called and told us not to neglect you." Chapter 82. It turned out Uncle Bai had called the police. I took a few steps forward and looked at him. Did Uncle Bai say anything else? The policeman thought for a moment and said, Master Bai told me to pass a message to you. He told you to rest well and not to think too much about other things. It will be resolved tomorrow. I nodded, understanding Uncle Bai's meaning. It seemed that the family had already started to take care of me. I took out 200 yuan from my pocket and gave it to the policeman. Thank you for passing the message. I don't have much cash on me. Although it's not much, take it. He looked at me and said, Miss Lung, I can't take this money. This is what I should do. I can't take your money. I grabbed his clothes and stuffed the money into his pocket. I looked at him and said, Just take it that I bought the message from you. You can leave. Pushed him away. He looked at me and nodded helplessly. Thank you, Miss Lang. Then he turned and left. I walked to the bench and sat down. Although it was summer, the night was still cold. I curled up into a ball as I waited for the quilt. Can I report a policeman for taking bribes? A man's voice came from the detention room next door. I glanced over and guessed that it was the man lying down. The man sat up and took off the hat covering his face. He looked at me and said, Miss Lang. I stood across from him and looked at him carefully. He was quite handsome. His face wasn't very mature, but it had a trace of coldness. Although his clothes were old, they were very clean. He didn't look like a bad person. Miss Lung, why are you staring at me like that? Have you fallen in love with me? He stood up and took 2 steps forward, getting closer to me. If you dare to tell anyone about what happened just now, I can't guarantee what I will do to you. I didn't like the way he flirted with girls. I stood there and looked at him, giving him a warning. He laughed and looked at me as he laughed. Are you angry? I was just joking with you. Is it necessary? Besides, if I really did say it, who do you think would believe me? Listening to him, I sighed in my heart. It was true. What evidence did he have to report me? I glared at him and sat down on the bench. He was standing near the railing, very close to me. He looked at me and said, Eldest Miss Lung, did you come to the police station to observe the people's situation? This is not fun. Fortunately, it's just me tonight. If there were more people, you wouldn't even be enough for them to share. Are you a regular here? Also, how do you know me? I looked at him and asked, Miss Lung, you're so famous. How could I not know you? Besides, I was once taken care of by the Red Minghui, so I know a little about you. Also, I'm not a regular here. I just arrived today. Why do I feel like you know this place so well? I asked, looking at him. His expression suddenly became very sad. He gripped the railing and said thoughtfully, Because my father used to come in. Oh, I'm sorry. Looking at his sad expression, I had an indescribable feeling. He sneered. What's there to be embarrassed about? It's been a long time. I looked at him and asked, Then how did you get in? He sighed and said, My father was sentenced to prison for robbery and assault. My mother passed away when I was very young, and I had a sickly sister. When my father got into trouble, our family had no income. My sister needed to see a doctor and take care of her. I had no choice but to drop out of school to take care of her. Later we sold our house, but we didn't have enough money. My education was low, so I couldn't earn much money. I couldn't take care of my sister because of the time conflict, so I had to live like this for a long time, starving and full. Until yesterday, my sister was so sick that she needed an operation urgently, but I didn't even have the money to buy the medicine. I had no choice but to steal it. But as soon as I put my hand into that woman's bag, she caught me and sent me here. Listening to his story, I didn't feel good. I didn't know how to comfort him, so I looked at him and said, Everything has a solution. Don't worry. He smiled and said, If I were alone, I'd be fine. But I'm worried about my sister. She's in the hospital right now. The doctor said that if I don't pay the hospital bill by noon tomorrow, my sister's medication will be stopped. Without the medication, my sister will die. Sigh, I really regret trying to steal that woman's purse. If I had stolen it, my sister might have been able to live. But I didn't, and I'm still locked up here. I feel so wronged. I feel really wronged. I sighed and looked at him. How about this? Tell me the address of the hospital your sister is in. If I can get out of here tomorrow, I'll go and pay for your sister's medical bills. If I can't get out, I'll ask Uncle Bai or my parents to do it for me. He looked at me excitedly and said, Really? But why are you helping me? I don't know why. Just think of it as me trying to shut your mouth. But that's too much. What do you need me to do for you? Anything. He looked at me with a sincere expression. I smiled and looked at him. Silly. If I asked you to kill someone, would you do it? Don't be so silly. He thought for a moment, then looked at me. Bae, just think of it as me owing you. When I have money, I'll pay you back. Please believe me. I nodded and looked at him. I still don't know your name. My name is Suri. He extended his hand in front of me and looked at me. Miss Ling, thank you. Thank you for helping me. I reached out and shook his hand. It's nothing. You said that Red Minghui helped you before, so it's okay for me to help you again. No matter what, I still want to thank you. If you need me in the future, just let me know. I'll do my best, Suri said to me firmly. I nodded at him. After chatting with him for a while, I realized that Su Rue was a very lively and meticulous person. He cared about his younger sister and his father the most. Although his father was in prison for doing something wrong, Su Rue was still willing to forgive him and wait for him to come back. Chapter 83. Suri and I talked all night. He told me a lot of stories about himself and how he had received help from the Red Minghui when he was in trouble. When it was very late, the young policeman came over to give me a quilt. I asked him for another quilt and handed it to Suri. Suri was very touched and had a good conversation with Suri. It was as if he regretted not having met sooner. Took a nap. After about an hour it was morning. The young policeman was very attentive. He even prepared breakfast for me and Suri. After breakfast, I waited in the detention room for my family to come and pick me up. After waiting for a while, the young policeman came in front of me. He looked at me and said, Miss Lang, Uncle Bai brought a few people to pick you up. Because there is insufficient evidence and you have a sufficient alibi, you have been eliminated as a suspect. I smiled at him and said, Thank you. I turned to look at Su Rue and said, Little Su Rue, I'll definitely do what I promised you. I'll go and arrange for your sister's surgery now. I'll take care of all the expenses so you don't have to worry. Suri looked at me with an excited expression and said, Really? Thank you so much, Miss Lung. I didn't expect you to be so kind. I looked at him and smiled. Just call me Xiao Li in the future. When I'm done with your sister, I will come and get you out. Really? Suri's eyes flashed with tears. Don't worry, I will do what I say. I waved at him and followed the young policeman out. When I arrived at the reception room, I saw my father and mother sitting in chairs. Behind them stood Uncle Bai, Han Hao, and Xin Yao. I sat opposite my parents, and the very authoritative police officer who interrogated me yesterday sat next to us. He looked at my parents and said, Mr. Lung, after a night of investigation, it has been verified that your daughter indeed has a sufficient alibi and has nothing to do with the car accident in Douanmu, Quebec. You can take Miss Lang and leave. The father looked up at him and said, I already know about this. What I want to know now is whether my son-in-law's car accident was caused by someone or an accident. The policeman was stunned. He looked at my father and said, Well, we are still investigating. When the investigation is clear, I will inform you, Mr. Lung. My father stood up and before he left, he looked at him and said, You'd better let me know that you didn't intentionally arrest the wrong person. Otherwise, I'll destroy the entire police station. Lier, let's go home. Everyone walked towards the door. I suddenly remembered something. I grabbed Uncle Bai's arm and looked at him. Uncle Bai, a good friend of mine, is locked up here. He wanted to pay for his sister's medical fees, so he tried to steal, but he failed. He was arrested and treated as a thief and brought here. Uncle Bai, can you see if you can bail him out? Uncle Bai thought for a moment and nodded. No problem. That's easy to handle. That's great. I'm going to the hospital to pay for his sister's medical expenses. Please, Uncle Bai. I looked at Uncle Bai with a smile. Don't trouble yourself with paying for the medical expenses. Leave it to me. You go home and have a good talk with your brother and sister-in-law. Leave the matter of the person you mentioned to me. Don't worry, your Uncle Bai is not at ease. Uncle Bai patted my shoulder. Course I'm at ease. Once you've arranged for him to meet his sister, please bring him to see me. Thank you. I smiled at Uncle Bai and followed him out of the police station. I followed my parents' car back home. Han Hao and Xin Yao also followed me back to my house. When we entered the living room, everyone sat on the sofa. Uncle Bai said a few words to my father and then left. I looked at Xin Yao and asked, "Little girl, how's Duanmu Ke?" Xin Yao looked at me. "Sister-in-law, you don't need to worry. My brother has passed the critical stage, but he hasn't woken up yet. The doctor gave him a thorough examination and said that there's nothing wrong with him. He should wake up soon." I let out a long sigh. That's good. I'm relieved. You should tell me about yourself first. My father glanced at me. At first I was bewildered. Then I looked at my father and told him everything that had happened. My father angrily slapped the armrest of the sofa. He looked at me and said, "Why didn't you tell me about such a serious matter earlier? Besides, you knew that he was framed by that woman. Why didn't you believe him? Why did you want to aggravate the conflict?" Hearing my father say that, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing down. "Uncle Lung, you can't talk about sister-in-law. Sister-in-law didn't do anything wrong. It's all that woman's fault. No woman would want their man to have an ambiguous relationship with another woman." Xin Yao looked at my father and said in front of me. My mother looked at my father and said, "I think what Xin Yao said is very reasonable. You shouldn't talk about our Li heir about this matter." My father looked at my mother, then looked at me and said, "Li heir, I'm not talking about you. I've told you more than once. Your marriage is not up to you. Your marriage is closely related to the business relationship between your two families. It's not up to you to do whatever you want. Do you think it's child's play?" I looked at my father and sighed. "Dad, I know. I also said that I love Duanmu Quebec. I don't want to argue with him. I also know that our marriage is closely related to our two families' finances. I also know what to do. When he wakes up, I'll apologize to him. Dad, don't be angry, okay?" My father looked at me and nodded. Then he pulled my mother upstairs. I sat on the sofa and looked at Xin Yao. "Girl, thank you for speaking up for me." Xin Yao sat next to me and leaned on my shoulder. "Sister-in-law, you don't have to be so polite with me. I'll protect your relationship with my brother. I definitely won't allow you Xen to get involved." I sighed and said, "I don't know why, but I don't feel confident right now. I'm also afraid that Duanmu Ke won't forgive me." "Sister-in-law, don't say that. You still have us. We'll support you." "All right. Sister-in-law, you don't know, but not long after you were taken away yesterday, Yu Xen came back. She stayed in the hospital until Han Hao and I came out this morning. She didn't leave. I guess she's still in the hospital. It seems she's more attentive than I am." I lowered my head and covered my face. "Sister-in-law, don't say that. Time is just right. Why don't we go to the hospital to see my brother?" Xin Yao pulled me to my feet. I looked at Han Hao and said, "Han Hao, thank you for taking care of Xin Yao and doing so many things for me. It's my duty." Han Hao looked at me and nodded. Chapter 84. Xin Yao and I took Han Hao's car to the hospital. On the way, Han Hao told me how he had contacted Uncle Bai and helped me find the evidence. It turned out that they had contacted the driver who was at the scene and proved that he had caused the accident because he was tired and driving. Had nothing to do with me. Only the Red Minghui and the Kurosawa had the ability to find evidence in such a short time. As we talked, we arrived at the hospital. I couldn't wait to rush to Dwanmu K's room. I wondered how he was recovering tonight. As soon as I entered the room, I saw Dwanmu Tochio, Xiao Fengya, and Yuexin in the room. Dwanmu K was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. Looking at his sleeping appearance, I felt very uncomfortable. Xiao Fengya turned her head and saw me standing at the door. She walked over to me and held my hand tightly. Xiaoli, I heard from Xinyao. You've been wronged. I don't know who called the police, but the driver who caused the accident had already arranged for the insurance company to settle the claim. He still called the police and said that you framed him. This is too much. I smiled bitterly and looked at her. Mom, it's okay. It's not a problem. My dad has already helped me solve it. There's no problem. Don't worry. I'm sorry for making you and Dad worry. Xiao Fengya stroked my hair and said, Silly child, you've been wronged. I only found out this morning. If it weren't for Xinyao, I wouldn't have known. You guys are the same. You didn't tell me at first. Your dad and I can think of a way. No matter what, we can't let you stay in the police station for an entire night for no reason. Mom, it's okay. It's good to stay overnight. We found sufficient evidence to prove my innocence. This also saves me the trouble of going to the police station. Good. This matter is over. You and Dad shouldn't think too much about it. I turned to look at Dwanmu K and asked, Mom, how's Xiao K? The doctor just came to check on him this morning. He's out of danger, but he hasn't woken up yet. When he wakes up, he'll have to do a thorough examination. That's good. Sigh, it's all my fault. If only I wasn't so willful, I said with a sigh. Xiao Fengya took my hand and said, I've already heard what happened from Xinyao. It's obviously not your fault, so don't think too much about it. Is still not mature enough. If he was mature, he wouldn't not know that he should let you have your way. I was stunned. I looked at her and said, That's normal. We're just getting used to each other. It'll be fine after a while. At this moment I received a message. I turned on my phone and saw that it was from Xinyao. I looked up at her. I didn't understand why she would send me a message when she was so close to me. She pointed at her phone and gestured for me to see the message. I unlocked my phone and read it. It said, I cleverly avoided the topic of Yuexin. I remember you and my brother said that you didn't have enough evidence to accuse Yuexin of everything. That's why I didn't tell Mom. I thought to myself that this little girl was more reliable. I looked up at her. She winked at me mischievously. Then she pulled Han Hao out of the room. Xiao Fengya and I chatted casually. She asked me about what happened last night. I told her the truth. At this moment, Yuexin walked in front of me and Xiao Fengya. She looked at Xiao Fengya and said, Auntie, I see that Dwanmu Gij is fine. Everyone is here. I'll go back and rest. I'll come back tonight to keep an eye on things. I looked at her and said, It's fine. I'll be here. Go back and rest. Yuexin looked at me and then at Xiao Fengya. Auntie, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Goodbye. Then she said goodbye to Dwanmu Tochio and Xiao Fengya and left the room. I looked at Yuexin's back and said to Xiao Fengya, Mom, you and Dad stay here. I'm going to see her out. Xiao Fengya nodded at me. I walked out of the room. I saw Yuexin's figure the moment I walked out of the ward. I quickened my pace and caught up with her. As I followed behind her, I looked at her back and said, Why are you in such a hurry? You probably didn't expect me to come back so soon. Yuexin didn't say anything. I followed her to a resting area at the back of the hospital. She stopped and looked at me. I really didn't expect you to come out so soon. Moreover, I didn't expect you to get to the hospital so soon. But it doesn't matter. What do you mean by that? I looked at her and asked. Yuexin smiled and looked at me. Yesterday I spent the whole night with him. Although I couldn't enter the ICU, I was able to see him through the glass window. Felt very happy. You don't need to say that. I know you like him. You really put in a lot of effort to get him. I only have one question for you. I clenched my fists and looked at her. You want to ask me if Dwanmu K's car accident was intentionally caused by me. Yuexin raised her head and looked at me arrogantly. It's good that you know. Tell me the truth. Did you intentionally cause Dwanmu K's car to crash into him? Yuexin sneered and looked at me. Your imagination is really wild. I really don't like how Dwanmu Gij treats you too well. Hate you. But no matter what, I wouldn't scheme to hurt Dwanmu Gij. He's the only person I cherish. He's the only one I can't lose. Xinyao is still hiding things for you in front of Mom and Dad. Aren't you afraid that we'll tell Mom and Dad the truth? If they really know, do you think you'll have a good ending? I took a step forward and looked into her eyes. Yuexin looked at me and said, It doesn't matter. Uncle Dwanmu didn't trust me from the beginning. Whether I lied to him or not, the result would be the same. As for Auntie Xiao, you don't have to worry. She's the same as you, a soft-hearted person. She treats me so well, how could she bear to hurt me? Am I right? Listening to Yuexin's words, there was a clear provocation in her tone. Since you know that she treats you so well, why do you still want to mess up our lives? No, if you didn't appear, I guarantee that Dwanmu Gij would definitely fall in love with me. It's all because of you. Right now I don't have anything. Instead, Uncle Dwanmu wants to use me as a bargaining chip in Kurosawa's transactions. Why? I'm also a human. Why do you treat me like a dog? Yuexin pointed at my nose and asked. Chapter 85. Sighing, I looked at Yuexin and said, You're thinking too much. No one treats you like a dog. You just didn't see it when everyone was nice to you in the beginning. Yuexin turned around and said, Forget it. Things have developed to this point, and I don't feel like I've lost anything. You don't need to be too proud. If Dwanmu K doesn't wake up, you'll feel guilty for the rest of your life. Then, Yuexin turned around and left the hospital. I stood there and watched her leave, feeling very uncomfortable. I returned to the ward. Only Xiao Fengyao was there, taking care of Dwanmu Quebec. Xinyao and Han Hao had already left. I gently closed the door and walked behind Xiao Fengyao. I patted her shoulder and said, Mom, you've been here for a long time. You should go back and rest. Xiao Fengyao turned around and looked at me. All right, I'll go back first. I'll leave the hospital to you. I helped Xiao Fengyao up and walked her out of the ward. I watched her get into the car before returning to the ward. Only Dwanmu K and I were left in the ward. I sat next to Dwanmu K and held his hand. I looked at his closed eyes, which were filled with tears. I gently stroked Dwanmu K's face and kissed him on the lips. I sat on the chair next to his bed and watched him fall into deep thought. Xiao K, wake up. I've already realized my mistake. I pressed my face against Dwanmu K's palm. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I looked at him and said, Do you know how sad I was when you got into a car accident? I didn't feel anything when I was wronged, but when I saw your life hanging by a thread in the emergency room, I broke down. I will never misunderstand you and Yuexin again. I know you love me. I will never do that again. Please believe me, okay? So wake up. I have a lot of things to tell you. I lay next to Dwanmu K and couldn't stop my tears from flowing down. Just as I was heartbroken, the door to the ward was pushed open and a person walked in. It turned out to be Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai glanced at Dwanmu K, then looked at me and said, Shaoli, why are you crying? Don't be sad. He will wake up. I wiped my tears and looked at Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai, what did you want to see me for? Uncle Bai seemed to remember something. He looked at me and said, It's like this. I've already done what you asked me to do. He's outside the door. Who is he? He wants to see you. I had no choice but to bring him here. Okay, Uncle Bai, let him in, I said to Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai opened the door and a figure came in. It was none other than Suri. After he came in, Uncle Bai walked out of the ward and closed the door. Suri stood at the door and looked at Dwanmu K lying on the bed. He then looked at me and said, Is he Dwanmu K? He nodded. Miss Leng's husband is really different. He looks very handsome just lying there. Hearing the compliments coming from Suri's mouth, I suddenly felt very uncomfortable. I smiled coldly and looked at him. It's not very appropriate for you to say that. You should go back to being your normal self. You know me best. Speaking like that is really awkward. It's better to be casual. Suri rubbed his head and stood there with a silly smile on his face. Let's not talk about this. What do you want from me? I put down Duanmu K's hand and covered him with the blanket. Oh, it's like this. Came to thank you. Suri stopped smiling and looked at me. I really didn't expect you to keep your promise. Not only did you arrange for my sister's surgery, you also paid for all her medical bills. You also asked Uncle Bai to bail me out. Uncle Bai even agreed to let me work for him in the future. That way, I will have a fixed income to take care of my sister. I looked at him and said, since I promised you, I must do it. You don't need to be polite with me. You can work for Uncle Bai. Since Uncle Bai said that he would personally take care of you, you will definitely have a good future. Uncle Bai has a good eye for people. You must not disappoint us. Surua nodded and said to me, that's a must. I will definitely work hard. If there's nothing else, you can go take care of your sister. I want to be alone. I looked at Duanmu K and gently stroked his face. Suri stood at the door and didn't move. He stared blankly at Duanmu K lying on the bed and didn't say anything. I saw that his behavior was a little strange, so I asked, Suri, what are you thinking about? Suri came back to his senses and pointed at Duanmu Quebec. I think I just saw his finger move. What? I was very excited. I stood up and carefully looked at Duanmu K's finger, but it didn't move. I said to Suri, you might have seen wrong. That's impossible. My eyes are very good. He moved again. Suri pointed at Duanmu K and said excitedly. I quickly lowered my head and looked at Duanmu K's hands. Sure enough, the fingers on his left hand were trembling. I was so excited that I couldn't speak. Duanmu K could move. Is he going to wake up soon? I held Duanmu K's hand tightly and looked at his closed eyes. Xiaoke, are you awake? If you're awake, can you open your eyes? Duanmu K's right hand trembled again. I held his hand tightly and looked at his face. At this moment, Duanmu K's eyes slowly opened. I stood next to him and looked at him. I was very excited. I shouted, Xiaoke, you're awake. Someone come. Doctor. Where's the doctor? Suri also saw that Duanmu K was awake. He ran out of the room and asked the doctor and the nurse to come in. The doctor gave Duanmu K a simple examination and said, it's good that you're awake. Looks like there's no problem now. We'll do a more detailed examination before you leave the hospital. Duanmu K was lying on the bed. He opened his eyes and looked around. I sat next to him and held his hand tightly. Xiaoke, you're finally awake. That's great. At this moment, Duanmu K looked at me with a horrified expression. He pulled his hand out of my palm and clutched his own. Who are you? He asked me. Don't mess around. I'm your wife. Sorry. I wronged you. Don't be angry, okay? I didn't expect him to play such a childish game with me. I couldn't help but despise him. Wife. I'm not married. How could I have a wife? Who the hell are you? Duanmu K looked at me with a serious expression on his face. Chapter 86. It was as if he wanted to see through me. I slumped in the chair and looked at the defensive Duanmu Quebec. Did he forget about me? Xiaoke, I'm Xiao Li. Did you forget about me? I grabbed Duanmu K's shoulder and shook him. Duanmu K struggled with all his might. He was very strong and pushed me to the ground. I lay on the ground and looked at him. He sat up and looked at me coldly. Don't touch me. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. Suri had just walked in from outside. When he saw me on the ground, He quickly ran to my side and helped me up. He looked at me and said, "Miss Lung, why are you on the ground?" I got up and patted the dirt off my body. "It's nothing." Xiao Kei accidentally pushed me. "It's nothing." "What? Why did he push you?" Suri turned and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Duanmu Kei, what are you doing? What right do you have to push her?" Duanmu Kei looked at Suri from head to toe and said coldly, "Who are you?" "Forget it. Doesn't matter who you are. You know this woman, right? Hurry up and take her away. Tell her not to cause trouble here. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you too." "You." Suri was about to continue when I stopped him. I stood in front of him and motioned for him to stop talking. I looked at Suri and said, "Help me call the doctor. Also, tell the nurses to call Duanmu's family and tell them that Duanmu Kei woke up. I'll be here. Hurry up and go." Suri looked at me with a worried expression. "Are you okay by yourself? It's obvious that he doesn't know you." I shook my head and looked at him. "I'm fine. You should go." Suri reluctantly nodded and left the room. I stood in front of the bed and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "You don't remember me at all?" Duanmu Kei looked at me blankly. "I don't remember, but I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Can you think about it?" I leaned on the edge of the bed, looking at him expectantly. Duanmu Kei shook his head. "I don't want to think about it. Every time I think about something, my head feels like it's going to explode." My tears flowed down again. Duanmu Kei saw me standing there and crying. He said with a serious face, "Why are you crying?" "I just pushed you. What's wrong?" Did he feel wronged? "When my family comes, I'll have them pay you for it. Name your price." My heart ached again. I looked at Duanmu Kei and said, "I don't want money." Duanmu Kei sneered again. He looked at me and said, "You don't want money? What? You want me to marry you? We're already husband and wife. What's there to talk about?" "Oh, how come I don't remember being married?" "What? Do you really think I can marry you or something? Why don't you look in the mirror and see what kind of person you are? Even if you gave me something like you for free, I wouldn't want it." Hearing Duanmu Kei say those words, my heart ached. I clenched my fists and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "No matter what, do you think you're doing the right thing by insulting a woman like this?" "I'm insulting you. Who knows whether or not you're trying to get close to me? I've seen a lot of women like you. If you can't get a man, you'll do everything you can to trick him into bed. Then you'll make that man take responsibility for you. How bad are you?" "Shut up." I couldn't bear it anymore. I put my hands on the edge of the bed and looked at Duanmu Kei fiercely. "What? You want to beat me up? Come on, do you think my family will forgive you?" Duanmu Kei stared at me with a hint of arrogance in his eyes. "You." Just as I was about to curse him, the door to the room was pushed open. A figure ran in. It was Xiao Fengya. Xiao Fengya walked straight to Duanmu Kei's bedside. She touched his face and carefully looked at him. "Duanmu Kei, you're awake. That's great. Thank goodness you're okay. If something happened to you, how would your father and I live?" After saying that, she hugged Duanmu Kei tightly in her arms. "Mom, what happened to me? Why am I in the hospital? I should be fine. Let's go home in a bit." Duanmu Kei looked at Xiao Fengya and said with a smile, "What? You don't remember? Silly son, let's wait a while and let the doctor check again. If there's really nothing wrong, then we'll go home. Xiao Li is also here, let's go together." Xiao Fengya turned around and looked at me with a bright smile. "Xiao Li? Mom, how do you know that woman? Who is she?" Duanmu Kei looked at me. His expression suddenly became very serious. Xiao Fengya cupped Duanmu Kei's face and said, "What? Son, you don't know her. Don't scare Mom. What happened?" "Nothing happened. Who is this woman? Why do you all know her?" Duanmu Kei looked at me angrily. "Her name is Cold Glaze, she's your wife." "Duanmu, Gidge, you finally woke up." A voice floated in from the door of the room. The person who opened the door was none other than Yu Exin. "Xin Xin. Long time no see. Where have you been?" Last time I promised to go shopping with you. Look at my memory, I forgot about it. Tomorrow, how about tomorrow? Duanmu K looked at Yuexin, and a smile appeared on his face. My heart was instantly petrified. Why does he only remember Yuexin but not me? Could it be that he had forgotten all the things that Yuexin had done before? Really? That's great. Duanmu, Gij will go out to play when you're better. The doctor said that you need to rest for the next few days so we can't move around. Yuexin changed her usual cold temperament, and suddenly became like a cute girl. She acted like a spoiled child in front of Duanmu Quebec. Was this a dream? Why do I feel like the whole world has changed? Pinched my arm. Hurt a lot. Looks like it's not fake. If it's real, then it's even scarier. Duanmu K has already forgotten me. He definitely won't remember the time we spent together. What should I do? He will be kidnapped by Yuexin. What should I do? Son, you really don't remember. Lier is your wife. When you two were together, you were very sweet and happy. What happened to you? How could you suddenly forget? Don't scare mommy, okay? Xiao Fengya looked at Duanmu K, and her face was full of worry. At this time, Suri brought a doctor and a nurse to Duanmu K's room. The doctor did a simple examination of Duanmu K's situation, and then asked Duanmu K a few questions. Afterwards, he looked at us and said, according to observation, there is no external problem. But from the description, young Master Duanmu may be suffering from amnesia. We need to do a brain CT scan to know the result. Chapter 87. How did this happen? I asked the doctor as I looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. The doctor looked at me and said, his brain must have been hit during the car accident. Although he wasn't injured externally, he suffered internal damage and lost his memory. How long will it take for him to recover? I looked at Duanmu K helplessly. Miss Ling, don't worry. I'll arrange for a CT scan now. We can only confirm it after the results come out. All right, then I'll leave it to you. The doctor left the room with the nurse. Not long after the doctor left, Duanmu K, Xiao Fengya, Xen Yao, Han Hao, and Yuexin all rushed into the room. They surrounded Duanmu Quebec. Xiao Fengya was so excited that tears streamed down her face. She looked at Duanmu K and said, K, you're finally awake. This is great. Mom, why are you crying? I'm fine, aren't I? Duanmu K turned around and saw Xen Yao and Han Hao together. He asked in confusion, Xen Yao, how come you're back? You're with Han Hao. You're not bad. I only have one precious little sister. You can't bully her. Otherwise I won't be polite to you. Xen Yao and Han Hao looked at each other. Then she looked at Duanmu K and said, Brother, did you forget that we're together? I didn't know. Really, why didn't you tell me? Xen Yao felt that something was strange. She walked to my side and pulled me in front of Duanmu Quebec. She asked Duanmu K, Brother, do you know her? Duanmu K's expression changed instantly. He looked at me angrily and said, Why do you all say that I know her? I've already said that I don't know her at all. It's really strange. How do you all know her? Don't be rude. This is your legal wife. Duanmu Tachio rebuked Duanmu Quebec. Dad, I've already told you that I'm against arranged marriages. Moreover, I don't even like her. I will never marry her. Duanmu K said firmly to Duanmu Tachio. Duanmu Tachio said, Uncle, don't be angry. Let's let the doctor examine Duanmu Gij first. Yuexin looked at Duanmu K and smiled. Xen, why do I feel like I haven't seen you for a long time? You seem to have lost weight. Did someone bully you? When I get home, I'll get even for you. Duanmu K looked at Yuexin and revealed a smile that hadn't appeared in a long time. Looking at the two of them, my heart felt like it was being stabbed by a needle. I looked at Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya and said, Dad, Mom, I'm leaving first. Xiao Fengya pulled my hand and said, Xiaoli, wait a moment. Don't go. She looked at Duanmu K and said, It doesn't matter if you remember or not. She is your wife. It doesn't matter if you admit it or not, we admit it. Mom, you better not force me. I already said that I won't marry someone I don't like. If you continue like this, I'll really leave. Duanmu Ke sat on the bed and looked at Xiao Fengya and Duanmu Tachio with a determined attitude. I patted Xiao Fengya's shoulder and said, Mom, don't say any more. It's fine as long as he gets better. I don't care about anything else. You don't have to pretend to be kind. From the moment I saw you, I knew there was something wrong with you. You also don't have to brainwash my parents. It's useless. You better leave when I'm in a good mood. Duanmu Ke looked at me coldly. Yuexin stood next to him with a bright smile on her face. Ke, I'm leaving. I turned around and walked towards the door. At that moment, I couldn't control the tears in my eyes and they flowed down. Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, don't go. Xinyao shouted behind me with all her might. I didn't stop and continued to walk forward. Xinyao, you can't chase after her. Duanmu Ke roared at Xinyao. Brother. Without waiting for Xinyao to finish speaking, Suri stood behind me. Suri looked at Xinyao and said, Since young Master Duanmu Ke told you not to chase after her, then please don't bother our family's Missy anymore. With that, Suri turned around and followed me out of the room. After leaving the room, I walked towards the green area behind the hospital. Suri followed closely behind me and didn't say anything. We walked to a place where there weren't many people. I casually found a stone bench and sat down. I raised my head and saw a large tree with lush foliage. Suri stood next to me. I could hear him sigh, but he didn't say anything. After a while, I didn't know what was going through my mind. When I thought about Duanmu Ke waking up, my heart was very excited. But when I thought about how he forgot about me, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. My tears flowed down once again. At this time, Suri handed me a tissue. I didn't raise my head. I took the tissue and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. Thank you, I said softly. Suri sighed again. You're too courteous. But you're completely different from the one I met yesterday. As I wiped my tears, I said to him, What's the difference? It's just me anyway. Do you feel better after crying? Suri squatted down and looked at me. Sorry, I don't know how to comfort girls. Suri scratched his head and looked at me with a silly smile. I looked at him and nodded. I suddenly felt that when other people were wronged, they had their loved ones by their side. But when I was wronged, it was because of a friend I just met. Suri stopped in front of me and looked at me. Missy Lang, I've decided to leave Uncle Bai. Hearing his words, my heart trembled. You're leaving. Where are you going? Suri stood up and looked at me. Please allow me to stay by your side and be your subordinate. I want to be your bodyguard. I raised my head and looked at him. What did you say? Suri, who was thin and weak, looked particularly tall under the sunlight. He looked at me and said, I don't know why, but when I saw him treat you like that, I felt an inexplicable anger in my heart. But I know that he's the one you love, and I can't hurt him, so I endured it. But when I saw you being wronged, I felt an urge to protect you. Do you think I'm being very childish? My tears flowed down again. I hadn't expected him to say that. Suri looked at me crying and immediately panicked. He squatted down and looked at me. He took out a tissue from his pocket and gently wiped the tears on my face. I'm sorry, he said softly. Did I say something wrong to make you cry? I didn't do it on purpose. Please don't cry. I don't know what to do with you like this. As I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, I looked at him and said, No, it's just that no one has cared about me like this for a long time. Feel very touched. Thank you, Suri. Chapter 88. Hearing me say that, Suri relaxed. He squatted in front of me and smiled. That's good. As long as I didn't make you unhappy, that's good. Can you think about what I just told you? Let me protect you, okay? Just think of it as paying off a debt. Paying off a debt. What debt? I looked at Suri suspiciously. Suri smiled. You saved my sister and took care of me. No matter what, from now on I'm yours. I'm under your control. Hearing Suri say that, I couldn't help but laugh. I looked at him and said, You make it sound so ambiguous. Feels so mushy. Suri looked at me and reached out to gently rub my hair. He said seriously, Don't cry so sadly in the future. I will do my best to make you happy. You won't have to suffer any more grievances. Thank you. Hearing Suri say so much to me, my heart was moved. Even when my heart was hurt, there was still someone who cared about me. I felt that my cold heart wasn't so cold anymore. Sister-in-law. I heard Xinyao's voice before I even saw her shadow. Then I saw Xinyao's figure. She saw us and walked towards us. When Suri saw Xinyao, he stood up. Sister-in-law, what are you doing? Xinyao looked at Suri and then sat next to me. She held my arm and sighed helplessly. Suri looked at Xinyao and then said to me, You guys chat. I'm going to see my sister. I nodded to him and he left. Xinyao looked at his back as he left, then turned her head to look at me and said, Sister-in-law, who is he? My new male bodyguard. His name is Suri. Sister-in-law, did you fall in love with someone else? Do you not love my brother anymore? Xinyao pouted and looked at me with an aggrieved face. I gently patted her head and said, Silly girl, what are you talking about? I met him in the police station. He used to be taken care of by the Red Minghui. His sister was sick and needed surgery. I saw that he was a good person. After leaving the police station, I paid for his sister's medical expenses and arranged for her surgery. At the same time, I bailed him out and arranged for him to work for Uncle Bai. Today, when he saw Duanmu Kei's attitude towards me, he suddenly felt very angry. Then, he told me that he wanted to work for me and protect me. Did you? Xinyao, and she looked at me with a pout of her mouth. I smiled and looked at her. You can say that. He's not bad. He's reliable. He'll be useful in many ways in the future. Xinyao sighed, looked at me and said, Then do you still love my brother? Do. My feelings for him have never changed, but I feel like he doesn't love me anymore. Maybe it's because he lost his memory, he has forgotten about me. Right now, I feel that his feelings for me are not as deep as his feelings for Xian, or maybe he doesn't have any feelings at all. I don't know how to put it, but my heart is very upset. Talking about this topic made her very depressed. Xinyao hugged me. She leaned on my shoulder and said to me, Sister-in-law, actually, seeing my brother like this, I feel very uncomfortable in my heart. I always feel like he erased you from his memory. I don't know if he really can't remember you or if he deliberately can't remember you. It's okay. He'll slowly remember. Everything will be fine. Don't be angry. Being angry is not good for your skin. I patted Xinyao's back. I felt sorry for her. She's right. I don't want my little sister to grow old faster than me. Behind us came Duanmu Kei's voice. Xinyao and I turned around. It was Duanmu Kei and Yuexin. Yuexin held Duanmu Kei's arm and walked towards us. They looked like a couple in love. It was a very unpleasant scene. Seeing this scene, Xinyao couldn't control her temper. She stood up and looked at Yuexin. What right do you have to hold my brother's arm? Let go. Xinyao pointed at Yuexin's arm that was holding Duanmu Kei's arm and roared at her. Yuexin glanced at me, then looked at Xinyao. She helplessly pulled her arm back. Duanmu Kei looked at Xinyao and said, Mimi, is there still some misunderstanding between you and Xin? It'll be fine if you talk it out. Dad and Mom said to get along peacefully. Get along peacefully with her. Don't even dream about it. Brother, it doesn't matter if you really lost your memory or not. I can't be friends with her. I've said it before, I can't coexist with her. Xinyao glared fiercely at Yuexin, as if she wanted to eat her alive. Duanmu Kei didn't respond to Xinyao. He looked at me, sizing me up from head to toe. Then he walked in front of me and said, Come with me. I have something to talk to you about. I glanced at Xinyao. Xinyao gave me a meaningful look. She wanted me to talk to him. I turned to Duanmu Ke and said, "Okay." Duanmu Ke walked deeper into the green zone. I followed behind him and kept walking forward. At this time, Yuexin wanted to follow, but she was stopped by Xinyao. Yuexin looked at Xinyao and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" Xinyao stood in front of Yuexin. She looked at her and said, "Didn't you hear what my brother said? He wants to talk to my sister-in-law, not you. Why are you following him?" Yuexin looked at Xinyao, her eyes burning with anger. I turned my head and followed Duanmu Ke's footsteps, walking deeper into the green belt. In the middle of the hospital's back garden, there was a small man-made lake. Walking to the lakeside, Duanmu Ke stopped. I stood behind him, suddenly feeling that this figure was both familiar and unfamiliar. Duanmu Ke suddenly turned around, looked at me and said, "I've already heard about the matter between you and me from my parents and Xinyao. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I lost my memory. It was after they finished telling me that I lost my memory." Hearing him say that, my mood improved a lot. I smiled at him and said, "It's okay. As long as you can recover, your health is more important than anything else. I'm sorry for what I did to you earlier. Before I understood the situation, my attitude toward you was extremely bad. I'm sorry for making you suffer." Duanmu Ke stood in front of me and apologized. I had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. "It's okay. There's no need to apologize between the two of us." I looked at Duanmu Ke's face. The feeling in my heart was indescribable. "I won't beat around the bush with you. I called you here because I want to talk to you about us." Duanmu Ke stood in front of me, his expression calm. "What do you want to talk to me about?" I looked at Duanmu Ke and asked, "Let's get a divorce." Chapter 89. I looked at Duanmu Ke and asked him in disbelief, "What did you just say?" Duanmu Ke looked at me and adjusted his collar. He looked at me and said, "I said let's get a divorce. Since it's a marriage arranged by our parents, and you didn't want it to happen, we should hurry up and end this situation. I won't affect your life, and I hope you won't affect mine." I calmed down and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Is this your own idea? Who else would it be?" He looked at me, his eyes strange. Tears rolled down from the corners of my eyes. Duanmu Ke looked at me and was stunned for a moment. Then he said, "Oh, I understand. How about this? Give me your bank account number. After we get a divorce, I'll give you a handsome sum of money as compensation." "Who wants your stinky money?" I turned my face away from him. Duanmu Ke sneered. He looked at me and said, "Don't all women love a man's money?" "Oh, I understand what you mean. We've already had sex. Don't worry, I'll give you a handsome sum of money as a breakup fee, including compensation for the psychological damage and the loss of your youth. What do you think?" I turned to look at him and said, "I told you I don't want your money." Duanmu Ke walked over to me. He reached out and pressed me against the tree. Looking at me, he said, "Leng Yu Li, you'd better do what you say. Don't cross my bottom line. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do to you." My shoulder hurt from being pressed against the tree. I sneered at Duanmu Ke and said, "I've experienced the old you. If I was an angel in the past, then I'm definitely a demon now." Duanmu Ke let go of my hand and looked at me. I didn't want to look at him. Duanmu Ke continued, "Since you've been living in my house, I'm not in a hurry to let you move out. I don't want people to say that Duanmu Ke, am too decisive. I'll give you half a month. After half a month, I don't want to see anything of yours in my house." "No need. I won't go back. You can get rid of everything related to me." Duanmu Ke's words made me very angry. Duanmu Ke suddenly reached out and grabbed my chin. He raised my head and stared coldly into my eyes. I didn't avoid his gaze and looked him in the eye. Duanmu Ke looked at me and said, "This matter is not up to you. I say when you can leave, then you can leave. You want to leave now? Impossible." I don't care how powerful the Red Minghui is. I only care about who dares to disobey the Duanmu family. I advise you to recognize the situation and don't do anything useless. You want to escape. Impossible. I shook off Duanmu K's hand and looked at him. Don't touch me. Why do you make all the decisions? Don't think too highly of yourself. If you marry a chicken, you have to follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, you have to follow the dog. Since you married me, married into the Duanmu family, you have to listen to the Duanmu family. After Duanmu K said that, he pulled my hand and walked towards the hospital building. Although I struggled, Duanmu K was too strong. I felt a faint pain in my wrist. However, Duanmu K didn't seem to want to let go. When we reached the bench where I had rested earlier, I saw Yuexin and Xinyao still standing there. The two of them didn't say anything. They just looked at each other with murderous expressions. When Yuexin saw Duanmu K pull me over, she smiled and walked over. She looked at Duanmu K and said, "Brother Duanmu, you talked for so long. You should go back and rest. The doctor said you should rest on time." Duanmu K looked at Yuexin and smiled. He said softly, "Okay, I know. Let's go back to the ward." Duanmu K used all his strength to throw me in front of Xinyao. I lost my balance and almost fell. Xinyao quickly supported me. She looked at Duanmu K and said angrily, "Brother, what are you doing? Look, you've made sister-in-law's wrist red." Xinyao gently held my wrist. There was a clear handprint of 5 fingers on it. Duanmu K looked at Xinyao. He pointed at me and said coldly, "Xinyao, go back and tell Mom and Dad that I've already talked with her. In 15 days we will divorce. For the sake of our Kurosawa's face, I won't drive her away for the next 15 days. You take good care of her. It's best if she stays at home for the next 15 days. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Duanmu K looked at me, then turned around and pulled Yuexin toward the hospital building. "Brother, how can you be like this?" Xinyao looked at the backs of Duanmu K and Yuexin. She was very angry. She roared at Duanmu K, but Duanmu K didn't even turn his head. He left with Yuexin while talking and laughing. I tightly gripped Xinyao's hand and said, "Forget it, Xinyao, let him be. But he wants to divorce you. Sister-in-law, he's so close to Yuexin. Is he going to be with that slut? Sister-in-law, you can't agree to divorce him." Xinyao supported me and looked at me as she spoke. I shook my head with a cold smile and said, "What else can I do? I don't know what to do to make him remember our past." "Sister-in-law, don't get agitated. Your wrist is injured. I'll take you to the hospital to get it bandaged first." Xinyao lifted my wrist that was red from Duanmu K's grasp and said worriedly, "No need. Compared to this, my heart hurts even more. But there's no medicine to treat it." My tears flowed down again. Seeing me cry, Xinyao hugged me tightly. She patted my back and said, "Sister-in-law, don't cry. Let's go home first. I'll talk to Mom and Dad about this. I want to see how my brother can win against the 3 of us." I leaned into Xinyao's embrace and suddenly thought of a person. I dialed his number. "Hello, where are you? If there's nothing, can you come find me? That's mine." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Leaning into Xinyao's embrace, my tears flowed down uncontrollably. Xinyao whispered into my ear, "Sister-in-law, who did you just call? You'll know in a bit." I didn't say much and waited for that person to come. After 5 minutes, I heard the sound of hurried footsteps from not too far away. I let go of Xinyao and turned around. As expected, it was Suri. He ran all the way in front of us. Standing there, he looked at me and panted, "Missy, what's wrong? Did something happen?" I looked at Suri and said, "Didn't you want to stay by my side and be my bodyguard? Does that still count?" "Of course it counts. Missy, you agreed." Suri looked at me excitedly. Chapter 90. I looked at Suri and nodded. Suri excitedly jumped up, looked at me and said, That's great. I can finally work for you. That's great. Looking at Suri's excited expression, Xinyao pursed her lips and looked at Suri and said, Is there a need to be so happy? So annoying. There's someone who's going to steal my sister-in-law. Suri looked at Xinyao and said, Miss Duanmu-ke, hello, I am Suri, currently Miss Leng's bodyguard. As he said that, he extended his hand in front of Xinyao and looked at Xinyao with a smile. Xinyao glanced at me. I motioned for her to shake hands with Suri. Only then did she extend her hand, shook Suri's hand for a moment, then let go. Xinyao looked at me and said, Sister-in-law, what do you mean by taking him in as a bodyguard? I looked at Xinyao and said, I'll have to ask you to put in a good word for me in front of Mom and Dad. That's not a problem, the key is what you want me to do. Xinyao never hesitated when it came to my requests. She always tried her best to help me. I looked at her and said, If Duanmu-ke really wants to divorce me, I can't leave your home at will, I can only quietly stay in your home. Also, I can't predict what Yuxian will do to me during this period of time. Now that I don't have Duanmu-ke as a guarantee, if Yuxian really wants to do something to me, I won't even be able to resist. That's why I'm taking Suri with me. First, he can protect me, and second, he can do a lot of things for me. So, I'll have to trouble you to talk to Mom and Dad and let Suri enter the Duanmu-ke's home for 15 days. If we really divorce, I'll take him with me. Xinyao pulled my hand and said, That's not a problem. I'll talk to Mom and Dad, they'll definitely agree. Sister-in-law, don't worry about this. But don't worry, I won't let you divorce. You have to believe me, I'll definitely keep you by my side. I looked at Xinyao and said, Okay, I'll leave it to you. Let's go home first. Suri looked at me and said, Miss, I'll go make arrangements for my sister first, then I'll go over. No need, I'll call Uncle by later. I'll leave everything here to him. You can come with me. I said to Suri, Is that appropriate? I didn't even prepare a change of clothes or toiletries. If I really move in, wouldn't it be too abrupt? Suri asked worriedly. Xinyao looked Suri up and down from head to toe. Then she said to him, I see that you have a good body. I have some sample clothes at home that I prepared for the competition. I took a look and you should be able to wear them. As for underwear and toiletries, I'll ask the nanny to prepare a few more sets. I moved closer to Suri's ear and whispered, You've gotten a bargain. Xinyao's clothes are all first-tier brands. Some of them can't be bought even if you want to. You should be happy. Really. Thank you so much, Miss Duanmu. Suri bowed deeply to Xinyao, a smile blooming on his face. Xinyao looked at Suri's bright smile and blushed. She lowered her head and tugged at the corner of her clothes. If it weren't for my sister-in-law's face, I wouldn't have let you wear the clothes I designed. I gently stroked Xinyao's hair and said, Okay, let's go back and see how Xiaoke is doing. The three of us walked towards the hospital building. While we were chatting, we arrived at the door of Duanmu-ke's room. We pushed the door open and entered. There was no sign of Duanmu-ke and Yuxian. There was only a nurse cleaning the bed where Duanmu-ke used to lie. When she heard someone enter, she stood up and looked at us. Are you here to visit young Master Duanmu? Xinyao nodded. We're his family. Where did he go? Young Master Duanmu has already finished the discharge procedures and left. What? He's already been discharged. Thought. How could he have just been discharged? The nurse looked at us. Yes, he's already been discharged. He just left. Okay, thank you. I turned and walked out of the room. Xinyao and Suri stood next to me and looked at me, not knowing what to do. Xinyao asked, How could my brother be discharged? It must have been instigated by that bitch. What should we do now? He sighed. Let's go back to Duanmu's house. Okay, let's take my car. It's parked in the parking lot. Suri, you drive. Xinyao took out her car keys and threw them to Suri. On the way home, I called Uncle Bai and arranged everything for Suri. That way, Suri could stay by my side and work for me. On the way home, Xinyao and I discussed how to talk to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya about the divorce. We were afraid that if we spoke too directly, it would hurt the two old people. We also wanted to suppress the matter, but we were also afraid that Duanmu wouldn't forgive us. Before we knew it, the car had arrived at Duanmu's house. As soon as we got out of the car, the housekeeper hurried over to greet us. She looked at me and said anxiously, young mistress, you're finally back. Please talk to the young master." Master was so angry that he had another heart attack. What's going on? Take me to see him." I didn't have time to care about Suri and Xinyao. I hurried to the living room. After entering the living room, I was shocked by the cold air in front of me. Duanmu was standing next to the tea table. Yuexian was also standing next to him. Duanmu Tachio was leaning back on the sofa. Xiao Fengya was sitting next to him, gently massaging his heart. The things on the tea table had been thrown to the ground. The living room was a mess. I couldn't care less. I ran to Duanmu Tachio's side and checked his condition. Fortunately, his life wasn't in danger. I looked at Xiao Fengya and asked, "Mom, how's Dad?" Xiao Fengya wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. She said to me, "He's okay. I just gave him a few pills. It seems like his condition isn't as bad as before." I turned around and saw Suri, who had come in with me. I said to him, "Suri, come here and give me a hand. Help me carry my father to the car. We'll take him directly to the hospital. Xinyao, follow me and see what's going on. If there's anything, immediately call me." Suri listened to my words and nodded. He walked over and gently helped Duanmu Tachio up. Then he walked towards the door. Xinyao also supported Duanmu Tachio at his side. At this time, Duanmu walked to the front and blocked Suri's path. He looked at Suri and said, "Put it down. This is our family's business. It's none of your business." "Brother, what do you mean by that? Are you going to let our father get sick like this?" Xinyao shouted at Duanmu Quebec. Chapter 91. Duanmu glanced at Xinyao and said, "I'll take care of our father's business. There's no need to let an outsider take care of it." Xiao Fengya stood up and looked at Duanmu Quebec. You're going too far. How can you talk like that? I've decided. Xinyao, hurry up and take your father to the hospital for a checkup. Keep an eye on him. I'll stay at home. I want to see what your older brother wants to do to this family." It was the first time I saw Xiao Fengya angry. I looked at Xinyao and Suri and said, "Girl, hurry up and take our father to the hospital. Suri, drive carefully." Xinyao nodded at me and then left with Suri carrying Duanmu Tachio. After Xiao Fengya watched them leave, she sat back down on the sofa with her arms crossed in front of her chest. She looked at Duanmu and then at me and said, "Xiaoli, come and sit next to me." I looked at her and nodded, then sat next to her. Seeing Xiao Fengya's actions, Duanmu said with an impatient expression, "Mom, I'm going upstairs." Then he turned around and walked upstairs. "Stop. You're getting more and more uneducated. Did I allow you to leave? Stand there." Xiao Fengya roared at Duanmu Quebec. The normally amiable Xiao Fengya was now so fierce. I couldn't believe it. Duanmu turned to Xiao Fengya and said, "Mom, I don't think I did anything wrong. Yes, Dad got a heart attack because of me, but I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to take Dad to the hospital. Since you insist on having an outsider take him, then I can't do anything about it." Hearing Duanmu say those words, I suddenly felt like I didn't know him anymore. Or had he always been such a ruthless person? You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to say anything about the divorce. Your father and I will never agree to it. Xiaoli is not an outsider. She is our legal wife. You don't have the final say in this family." Duanmu sighed and said, "Mom, if you really want to say that, then I can't do anything about it. If you want to acknowledge her, then so be it. I will never acknowledge her as my woman." "Do you want to piss me off too?" Xiao Fengya stood up from the sofa and pointed at Duanmu Quebec. You're going too far. I stood up and supported Xiao Fengya. I gently patted her back and comforted her. Mom, don't get too worked up. Your health is more important. I turned and looked at Duanmu Quebec Xiao Ke. No matter what, you shouldn't talk to your mother like that. You're hurting her feelings. Duanmu Ke looked at me and sneered. You don't need to pretend to be nice. My parents might be nice to you, but I won't. Fine. You want to be like this, right? Fine. I'm telling you, you don't want her. We want her. Get out of here. Xiao Fengya pointed upstairs and told him to leave. Yuexin glanced at us, then pulled Duanmu Ke upstairs. I watched Yuexin's every move. It seemed she had put a lot of effort into Duanmu Ke since Duanmu Ke woke up. After Duanmu Ke left, Xiao Fengya sat on the sofa, covered her face and cried. I gently patted her back and said, Mom, don't cry. He definitely didn't do it on purpose. Don't be angry. Xiao Fengya pulled my hand. Xiaoli, I'm sorry. I treated you like this. I didn't have the ability to protect you. Mom, don't blame yourself. I know you and Dad took care of me. I hugged Xiao Fengya and leaned on her shoulder. I could feel that her heart was also very sad. After a while, I held her arm and looked at her. Mom, let me help you back to your room to rest. Xiao Fengya looked at me with a tired face and shook her head. I'm worried about your dad. I want to go see him. Mom, I'll go take care of it. You rest first. Dad will be fine. If there's anything, I'll inform you immediately. All right, thank you for your hard work. I helped Xiao Fengya back to her room and helped her lie down. Then I quietly left the room. I returned to the living room and dialed Xinyao's number. Xinyao, it's me. Sister-in-law, I know. How's our family? I sighed and said, Mom had a fight with Duanmu Quebec. I've just settled her down and put her to sleep. My brother is too immature. How's Dad? I asked directly. Dad's fine. He woke up on the way here. The doctor is doing a thorough examination. There's no big problem. Once the doctor confirms it, we can go back. Thanks to Suri's fast and steady driving, we arrived at the hospital very quickly. That's good. I'll leave Dad to you. There's a lot going on at home, so I won't go over. If there's anything, you can keep an eye on him. If there's anything, call me. Don't worry, sister-in-law. Take care of yourself. Don't let that bitch bully you. Okay, I got it. You go do what you need to do. I'm hanging up. I hung up the phone and sighed. Luckily, nothing happened to Duanmu Tachio. I sat on the sofa and thought about what had happened in the past 2 days. Felt like a dream. At this moment, Yuexin walked in front of me. She stood across from me and asked, How's Uncle? I raised my head and looked at her. Then I raised my head and looked at the ceiling. He's fine. That's good. Then Yuexin sat across from me and looked at me without moving. I saw that she didn't want to leave. I stood up and walked to the door. Yuexin suddenly stopped me. Wait a minute. I want to talk to you. I stopped and didn't look at her. I don't have anything to say to you. Don't you think that Duanmu Ke's attitude towards you has changed? Yuexin's words pierced my heart. I turned and looked at Yuexin. No. It's not a big deal. As long as he's happy. Yuexin looked at me. Why are you so calm all of a sudden? Don't you think that I'm the one who instigated this? I sneered and looked at Yuexin. So what if you're the one who instigated this? Now that he's already treating me like this, what can I do to change it? There's no other way. It doesn't matter if you're the one who instigated this, or if it's his own intention. I don't want to think about it anymore. Then, will you still stay in Duanmu's house? I don't think so. Didn't Duanmu Ke say that he wants a divorce? I respect his decision. Although it might harm the interests of both families, I don't want to wrong him, nor do I want to wrong myself. Being with someone who doesn't love me, my heart will be very tired. Is that what you really think? Yuexin looked at me in disbelief. I shook my head and looked at her. No, but what can I do? Isn't this the ending you want? Chapter 92. I looked at Ux and said, "Then you can naturally walk to Xiao Kei's side and become his woman. It's the best outcome for you, him and me." Uxin smiled and looked at me. "Haha, I don't know how to answer you. If that's what you want, then thank you for helping us." I sneered and looked at her. "You're welcome." I turned around and didn't look at her. I walked towards the garden. I tried to hold back the tears in my eyes, but they still flowed down from the corners. I walked to the deepest part of the garden and stood next to the rose pool that Duanmu Kei had built for me. Looking at the beautiful roses in the pool, my heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. I sat on a rattan chair across from the rose pool, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. I recalled everything that had happened with Duanmu Quebec. I still loved him very much. Although he didn't remember me, I still couldn't forget him. "Your heart hurts, right?" A man's voice came from the deepest part of the garden. I turned my head and looked in the direction of the voice. Han Hao walked out from behind the tree. He looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness. "Why are you here?" I asked, looking at him in surprise. "I've been here for a while." He walked towards me. "Oh, what are you doing here?" "I was waiting for Xinyao, but she told me that she was at the hospital with Uncle Duanmu. She asked me to go over. I was going to go over, but I just happened to run into you." Han Hao walked in front of me and looked at me without blinking. His scent was so familiar, and his eyes were so gentle. I didn't dare to continue looking at him. I was afraid that I would be trapped in his eyes. I said, "Then you should go quickly. The hospital is very busy. I don't think she can handle it alone." "Isn't there still Suri? You know him." I looked at Han Hao in disbelief. Han Hao smiled and looked at me. "Xinyao will tell me everything. She already introduced her to me. She said she's your personal bodyguard." "Yes, he's very reliable." She didn't know why, but after she said that, the atmosphere became even more awkward. Han Hao kept looking at me, but he didn't say anything. I felt more and more embarrassed, so I tried to find a topic to talk about. "You should go and find Xinyao. You still love Duanmu Kei, don't you?" Han Hao looked at me and said softly. "What?" Although his voice was very low, I heard it clearly, but I had to pretend that I didn't hear it. Han Hao suddenly pressed on my shoulder and said, "Even if he has forgotten you, you don't want to erase him from your heart, do you?" I understood what Han Hao meant. He still had feelings for me. I looked at Han Hao and said, "That's right. I still have him in my heart. I still love him. I can't forget him." "But he hurt you so deeply. Do you still miss him?" Han Hao grabbed my shoulder and roared at me. I lifted my head and looked at Han Hao. "Yes, I'm that cheap. I'm willing to stay by his side. No matter what he does to me, I will always be with him." Han Hao suddenly hugged me and buried his head in my shoulder. I could feel him sobbing. Han Hao hugged me tightly. I didn't know what to do. Leaning into Han Hao's embrace, I smelled his familiar scent. My eyes became moist. Han Hao whispered to me, "Why is it that no matter what happens, you would rather hurt yourself than hurt others? Why are you so stupid?" I let Han Hao hug me and didn't let go. I said softly, "It's nothing. I'll get used to it." Han Hao let go of me. He looked at me and said, "Just think of it as being selfish for yourself, okay? Even if it's just this once, you won't be hurt like this." I looked at Han Hao and smiled. "You know, I can't do it. I will never be able to do it." Han Hao's eyes were still glistening with tears. He looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness. Looking at his handsome face, I couldn't help but raise my hand and gently touch his handsome face. I didn't know why, but in front of him I had always pretended to be strong, but he had always seen through me. Han Hao hugged me and cupped my face. He kissed me deeply on the lips. The moment he kissed me, tears streamed down my cheeks. At that moment, it was as if time had stopped. I couldn't feel anything around me. All my attention was on this passionate kiss. Suddenly, I thought of something and pushed Han Hao away. Han Hao looked at me in surprise. I didn't look at him. I turned around and wiped the tears off my face. Han Hao suddenly hugged me from behind. I grabbed his arm and tried to break free from his embrace. Han Hao hugged me tightly to prevent me from running away. He said to me, "Do you still want to run away?" Han Hao, let go of me. How can you face Xinyao like this? I retorted. I don't like her at all. You're the one who always wanted me to be with her. You know who I like. I've always listened to you. But this time I don't want to listen anymore. When I saw how Xiao Ke treated you, I felt terrible. Since you two have decided to divorce, I can officially pursue you. Han Hao suddenly hugged me and put me on the rattan chair by the rose pond. I sat on the rattan chair while he supported himself with both hands. I couldn't move. He stared at me with a serious face. Han Hao, I treat you as my good friend. If you really do this, we can't even be friends anymore. I had no choice but to threaten him. I thought this method would work on Han Hao, but he stood in front of me and looked at me indifferently. His eyes looked like he wanted to eat me. He suddenly whispered in my ear, "I can wait. I can wait until you two divorce. As long as you two divorce, I will do everything I can to pursue you. I don't believe in giving you to others." I looked at Han Hao angrily and said, "Han Hao, I'm already in a mess. Don't add to it. I won't be with you. Whether it's for Xinyao, Xiao Ke, or for other reasons, I won't be with you. Don't even think about it." Han Hao sneered and said, "It doesn't matter. What I want to do is my business. What you want to do is your business. What I can promise you is that I will never let you down." Hearing him say that, I suddenly remembered what Duan Muke had said to me. I had said to him, "I don't believe in promises anymore. Promises can be changed at any time. I will never believe it." You're tuning in to the Whispers of Romance YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.